healthy enough to attend. Okay. Thank you. Oh, it's stuck. Gloria? Gloria, you know you still have a sign up on 14 Mile. Pardon me? Oh. Well, no, I mean, it's a fact.
No, I'm just
Okay. Okay, but yeah, I was pretty surprised that they need zoning variances. Yeah. She's sick. I saw her last night. She thinks she might have strep throat.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Yeah, there he is.
That one's wrong. That one's wrong. Still got 30 seconds. Thank you. Call to order, regular meeting of Warren City Council, Tuesday, I have no date is. The last day,
October
24th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
President Green.
Here.
Councilman Watts.
Here.
Councilman Lafferty.
Here.
Councilman Kabazinski.
Present.
Councilman Papandrea.
Here.
Councilwoman Moore is present. You have a quorum. A motion to excuse Ms. Rogansey, and just for everyone's information, she is very ill.
Support.
Spoke to her a little while.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item is adoption of the consent agenda. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Motion to adopt and approve the consent agenda. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kabazinski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion?
Thank you. I would like to add under miscellaneous 12E, discussion in re Celeste Sturgis versus City of Warren and Officer Alana Jeanette, claim number CNO 2100008101.
Which one's that?
That is 12E.
And I wanted to add ZBA reappointments.
Okay, so that will be G, 13H. Yes, 12C is in an amount not to exceed 21,000.
Okay. Any others? Call the question, Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar of pending matters, motion to receive and file.
So moved, Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
6B, discussion in Ray resident and neighborhood concerns.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
I got one. If communications could put the picture up on the screen, it'd be appreciated. I got a report on Ryan Road, northbound, just north of Garrick, about this situation with the pavement. And the resident said they've called a couple of times, and they reached out and asked if I would mention it tonight. So hopefully somebody can take care of that sooner than later. Appreciate it.
Any others?
Yes,
Ms.
Mr.
Moore?
Thank you. I have been spending a lot of time the last week or two in the 9 and Shaner, well, really from 8 Mile to 11 Mile, kind of between Hoover and Shaner. And the people at 9 and Shaner are very grateful that we proposed and approved a library in that area, but they are frustrated that nothing has been done. So I'd like to, urge the administration, people that are working on this, to move this forward. These people really need something, sort of a forgotten area. They need Parks and Rec, and, Owen Jacks is pretty much shuttered. There are no Parks and Rec, programs at any of the parks in that area. And I think we should think about doing after-school things and things in the summer for the youth in that area, because it's really a problem that there's nowhere for them to go. Also, I had several, as I'm talking to people throughout that area, they are very, very appreciative of the police and fire response there. There are a lot of complaints about blight, and it's, predominantly in rental homes, and I've been proposing that we do something about that, offer incentives, and I'm hoping that still can be done. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any others? Any others? Is there a motion support to send these to the administration for action?
Motion to send.
Support, Lafferty.
Motion by Watts, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 10, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Watts, support by Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is approval of the bills of the general revenue funds. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Support with discussion.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion, Ms. Moore, then Mr. Lafferty.
The first item I would like to remove is check number 659792 for $100. The recipient of that check is Eddie Banco. Eddie Banco was not approved to be on the Civil Service Commission and apparently continues to show up at those meetings, but he was removed for cause.
What's that check number?
That's 659792.
Okay.
The next question is, I would like to know what the procedure is that is in place or planned to be put in place to collect the tuition that the city has paid for the cadets who didn't take jobs with Warren that were offered. So I think we have to go back and figure out what we're going to do about being reimbursed for those funds. I also had some questions about the Joseph Coach patio door installation. Is anybody here from the Controller's Office? Budget Director?
No.
Nope.
Imagine that.
Anybody here that could talk about goose control? A lot of people here, nobody's got answers, but you'll have a lot to say, I'm sure, at audience. How about answering some questions? Anybody know about that? It's property maintenance probably or something. Goosebusters. It's on the list of bills. So I'm asking what it is, so nobody can answer.
Goosebusters?
Yeah, I just want to know where the problem is with the geese. Just interested.
I'm not really worried about heat. Right, you're not worried about heat. There's a lot more important things.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to stop in a minute anyway.
Anything else?
Sewer getting cleaned up.
Don't pay the check.
Okay.
Hold the check.
Hold the check.
Yeah, 659818.
There you go. Any others?
Nope.
Mr. Watts, or Mr. Lafferty, excuse me.
Ms. Moore cited the check for Eddie Banco that
Okay.
I had also.
Any others? Motion by Watts, or excuse me, motion by Moore, support by Watts, excluding checks 659792 and 659818. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Green votes yes, item passed 5-1. Next item.
Next item is approval of bills of the water and sewer system. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is audience.
Members of the audience who would like to address council this evening may do so under the audience portion. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. When there's 1 minute left, I'll let you know, and when you hit 3 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up. First speaker is Curtis Oshkosh.
Good evening, Council. A couple things that I noticed on the agenda today, item 12B, regarding support of Motor City Mitten Mission. I highly favor that that gets approved. There's a number of homeless people in South Warren, and they need someplace to go. Trinity Lutheran Church last year opened up their doors, and Trinity Church in Utica was the prime funder of that, along with some county funds, but they don't have enough money to keep going. There's a news story about it on WDIV, click on Detroit today. But there's just a great need in South Warren for a warming center. There's a need for funding for that, and that's an important issue. People don't want homeless people in their neighborhood, but they have to go someplace. Last month, September, our church gave food to 6,744 food insecure people, which is pretty significant. Also, last year we gave out 1,400 coats to people in Warren that didn't have coats. And so we have a winter coat drive through our church, Harvest Time Christian Fellowship. I gave you guys each a flyer about that. And also a toy drive. Last year we held a Christmas party for 310 underprivileged kids at Owen Jack. Had a Christmas party with dinner. We provided significant Christmas presents for all 310 kids, candy to take home for the Christmas holidays. These are kids that wouldn't have had Christmas if it wasn't for things that we did for them. So any support that you guys have regarding these things would be greatly appreciated. Any citizens that would like to support our toy drive or winter coat drive or our ongoing year-round food ministry would also be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Scott.
Good evening, Council. Bob Scott, Director of Property Maintenance, City of Warren. 2 weeks ago, during our neighborhood concerns, I listen to the council meeting every Tuesday night. Every time you guys have a meeting, I sit, I take notes, I look up what you guys are talking about on my computer while you're talking about it. I went in last Wednesday morning early. I pulled up all the addresses that you guys provided. Every one of those complaints already had a queue number. This is how we do our complaints in the city of Warren, property maintenance. They get a queue number. We attempted to explain this to you guys, how it works, so you could look them up. Everything that you guys talked about last week under that section of the council meeting already had a queue number, was already in the process, and already well on the way to being settled. So then I talked to several of the guys, and they were pretty upset about it, that they had done, and they're all here. You can see them all sitting in the back with me tonight. And since we have a job to do, and I don't know when I exactly started it, but every time you guys brought up something here at the council meeting, we looked it up, we handled it, we took priority over it, we put it amongst our other complaints that come in from the citizens, and we did an investigation on it. These are all of the complaints over the last couple of years since I started keeping track of them, all of the complaints. Now, we all know that you don't get along with the mayor and you don't talk to him. After we prepared these, I made a copy for the mayor and I gave them to him.
1 minute.
Okay, you guys, at that point, were supposed to contact the mayor, but since you guys don't talk to him, I did my job, the guys up there did their job, and I'm really tired of hearing about how property maintenance didn't do their jobs over the last 4 years. We did our job. You guys didn't get them from the mayor. You didn't do your job. As far as I'm concerned, if you guys would have had some communication, we could have made a lot more progress between council, property maintenance, and the mayor's office and got a hell of a lot more stuff done. And we didn't get it done because of that. Now, I might not be here after November 7th, and if that's the case, so be it, okay? But one thing for sure, I thank all the citizens for giving me a chance to serve them for the last 4 years, and I thank the best mayor that we've had ever, Jim Fouts, for giving me the job to work in.
Tamina Khan. Tamina Khan. Tamina Khan. Jennifer Ellison. I'm sorry?
If I can,
I'm sorry?
can I have her speak?
Are you Tamina?
No, I'm Jennifer.
Yeah, you can have her speak on your behalf.
Hi. My name's Heather Powell, and Jennifer and I would like to discuss the traffic study that's being done at Imperial and Gerald, and how it has been abysmal since they have taken down that barrier. So phase 1 went okay, although we are seeing a lot more traffic throughout our condos and throughout our neighborhood, which is bringing in more people are coming in through the condos, which you cannot get out anywhere. It is also making it hard for us to get in and out of our condos to get to the main roads. So phase 2 started last Wednesday, and because the city engineer did not plan it correctly, they did not check with city services, so sanitation and busing, emergency services, none of them had any idea that any of this was happening. They had no idea that garbage trucks cannot back up. So we pay for city services with our taxes, and they literally took us from having 2 entrances and exits to 1 entrance and exit. We are constantly combating everyone that's at the mosque and going in and out of that school, speeding through Imperial, now across Gerald as well. It is very hazardous in that area, and just, we would like the guardrail to be put back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Fagan?
Hello, Council. My name is Mike Fagan. I've been a resident of Warren for 45 years. Married 50 years this January, and my kids went to Warren schools. My son went to Mott, and my daughter went to Tower. My daughter, after school, during high school, she worked for a co-op program at the city of Warren. And she stayed on through college and 20 years with the city, and she left for different reasons. My brother worked for the city for 35 years. He left a few years ago. My son-in-law, he works there now. He's been there about 30 years, works for the city of Warren. I just want to come here tonight to say that about this election. I think it's probably the most important election we've ever had. I think the next 4 years are going to be really important for this city, what's going to be happening here. Angela, I think she did a great job in these 4 years. She sticks up for herself. Mindy Moore, I think you're probably the best council secretary we've ever had. People probably don't agree with me, but it's my feelings. Pat Green, I wish you would have stayed, would have ran as a write-in. You probably would have won. Do I have to listen to that? Gary Watts, I don't know where you get your energy from. We're probably about the same age, but you go to all the council meetings, you go to all the planning meetings, you go to the DDA meetings. I saw him one night, I was coming from a wedding about 11 o'clock at night, and he's out directing traffic on Mountain Road. I waved, and my wife said, "Who was that?" I said, "It's a councilman. He's directing traffic." Mr. Lafferty, we've had a couple conversations. Every time I call you, you call me, you answer your phone.
1 minute.
Or if you don't, you call me right back. Our last conversation was about what was going on at 12 Mile Mound, about the new landscaping up there, which I'm really glad. So, and no one's been there. It's much nicer than it used to be. No one sent me here to talk to these guys about this. I just thought it was something I wanted to get off my mind. I think these things are important for this city, what's coming up here next week. I can't imagine a new council here, what this meeting will be like if we have a new council. It'll be total chaos, I think. Closing, I just want to say that, when Fouts was on council, he always wanted the mayor to come here and talk or be here. I never seen him here. He hated City Hall when they built it. It's called the racetrack.
3 minutes, if you could wrap up, please.
And he said, different things about this, different things about the city I just don't like. I don't like the rhetoric up here sometimes, the way people talk to you people, but I don't think it's right. You guys all work hard, do a good job. Just want to move this city forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kish?
Hello, I'm Reverend John Kish. I've been a resident for over 23 years. The last 4 years has been horrible. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I'm angry that the council continues to spend thousands of dollars on a lawyer when we have already a city attorney, Mr. Ethan Vinson. The citizens of Warren have spoken. Mr. Green, we don't want you for our next mayor. You and this council have continued to assault our mayor, Jim Fouts, and you really think citizens, after all this, was going to vote for you? You and this council have wasted thousands on lawsuits instead of putting the money in much-needed places. Our city is a laughing stock thanks to all of you. Your loss, you lost the bid as mayor, so now once again, by trying to come after our mayor with a $20,000 lawsuit and possibly jail, are you kidding me? How about you? Are you all so good pointing your finger at the mayor when you got 4 pointing back at you? I'll let you figure that one out. The mayor will go down in history as one of the most caring, hard-working mayors for the citizens. Why don't you get the beam out of your own eyes instead of trying to ruin a man's career? I know that if our mayor was able to run again, we would be voting him back in. I'm going to be so glad when you are all out of here and our next mayor, George DeMoss, comes in and we have a new council that will get along as they did in the past. I will end by saying that as mean as you all have been, you should be ashamed of yourself. The Bible says, pray for those who spitefully use you. Please, if you have any decency at all, apologize to us citizens and our mayor. Oh, wait, you're all innocent.
Stephanie Kish.
I'm Stephanie Kish, and I live in Warren. I've lived in Warren for over 23 years. When I went to elementary school, I was bullied a lot. This carried on to high school. I was getting enrolled in Macomb Community College, but I was in fear of being bullied again. My dad assured me that in college, you're there because you are trying to get a degree and you are more matured too. I was sitting today after my devotion with God, asking him what I should talk about tonight. I felt him say about maturity. When we get older with age, we get to the age that we get more mature, or at least we're supposed to. The last 4 years here in Warren has been horrible, to say the least. I can't understand why leaders that are supposed to set an example bicker like elementary kids. We have a mayor that has done so much for our city, and the last 4 years this council has belittled him, bullied him, and tried to discredit him. We have elementary students and high school students that may want to get into government, state, or city jobs. They look to you all as examples, and they probably think, if this is what it's all about, forget it. Our mayor has never faltered through these continued bullied tactics. He will always be my mayor. Mr. Mayor, if you're listening or watching, the Kish family's got your back. I'm sorry your latter years have been literally hell. I won't even get into the latest tactics this council is trying to do. $20,000 fine and possibly jail. A all-time low. Sad, sad, sad.
John Renaud.
That's the youth of Warren speaking.
Good evening. My name's John Renaud, 43-year citizen of this town. Great town. The gentleman from Property Maintenance, I want to commend you. I think your department has done a phenomenal job. Phenomenal. Under the circumstances. Like he said, and like I've said since day one, what does it take to work with someone, even if you don't like them? A good city and a good professional council will work with the mayor, and he will work with you. Mr. Lafferty, I know that the mayor and you have made attempts to communicate with each other. He's offered for you to meet in his office. You'd offered to meet in a restaurant or a library or whatever, and then had the audacity to tell people that the mayor, he's crazy. He refuses to meet with me. You know, it goes both ways. I've come to many meetings here, and I remember the night that the Bengali community was here. I think anybody else that was here that night will remember. And they pleaded with you, Mr. Lafferty, from our District 2, that you would help them set up a cricket field at Helmich Park. My neighbor next door is from Bengali, and he said the Bengali community will be at the polls to vote in our next council person in District 2, and it'll be Adam Swaka. He will be the one that's going to take you down because you did not do your job. Amen. You didn't help the people in that community, and they remember it well. They remember it well. You put the mayor, you put the citizens, just blew them off. All of you, every one of you, with a couple exceptions.
1 minute.
I think it's horrible that the downtown development didn't get passed. Now I hear your mumblings about, yeah, let's get this downtown development going. You know, they were here from out of town, and one guy said to me, what's wrong with these people? I said, I don't know. I guess it's because they don't like the mayor. He said, they're so unprofessional, it's unbelievable. We've got a presentation here, and they won't even look at it. Plus, the other thing is the lawsuits with this town. The citizens, right now it's over $1 million. This guy up here, he should be the attorney for the dog department as far as I'm concerned. And it's horrible that we have to absorb the costs of another law firm because you did not want to deal with Mr. Vincent and his attorneys. Under the new council, I know that they will no longer be working for the city, and the citizens are going to get a fair shake. Thank you.
Colin John.
Mr. President, council members, citizens of Warren. After Mussolini won the 1924 election, he declared all opposition political parties illegal and jailed his political rivals. Between February 1933 and 1934, Chancellor Adolf Hitler ordered the police to imprison over 4,000 political rivals. Hitler effectively left citizens without guidance and support, enabling him to exploit their lack of knowledge, and you know what happened next. As many Americans were led to believe during World War II we were fighting fascism, 55 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. warned of a fascist takeover of the United States. However, fascism continued to find its way, grow, and blossom in America. Today, it's a trend we are seeing in all 50 states. Protest crackdowns, content moderation, let's call it what it is, free speech infringement, the jailing or threatening to jail political rivals. I am shocked and appalled by how heartless this city council regime have become, going after the mayor, a political rival, with threats of court and jail. Why? Let's be honest. You don't like him and you feel threatened by him. Just like Mussolini, Hitler, Khomeini, Mugabe, this city council regime is going after a political rival. Our mayor, Jim Fouts, has given his life in service to the city of Warren, spanning over 40 years of service from a councilman to mayor.
1 minute.
You act and tell everyone this mayor is the big bad wolf. What power does the mayor actually have? The bully pulpit, which provides him the opportunity to speak out and listen to on any matter? What good is his veto if you could override it? You have the power of the purse. You have all the power. The mayor cannot do anything unless you approve it. You can't have that power and make seat appointments too. That's an overstep in your constitutional power. Basically, this council have moved towards fascism. In the coming elections, we are not voting for you because someone is saying, don't vote for this person or that person. No. We are voting you out because we need to save our democracy and our city from fascism. Again, Jim Fouts have done more for the people in his years of service to the city of Warren, and I, Colin John, I'm very proud that I can stand here today and say, Mayor Fouts, thank you for your service, and I support you.
Thank you.
110%. Thank you.
William Williams.
Good evening, Council President, Council persons, citizens of Warren. My name is William Williams. You know, I heard a lot of people get up here and speak today that's been here 30, 40, 50 years. I'm a 15-year resident. I'm a retired vice president of a union. My position was an elected position. So I can speak emphatically on how this works and how it worked in our union, and it can work in any government or any elected body. If I was in an election and the person that I just didn't like in my union won, and I won, and we had a responsibility to serve the members, it immediately became my responsibility to make that relationship work. Even if I didn't like the person, because my being in that office had nothing to do with me liking him, but it had everything to do with me representing my members and getting them the best that I could get. I moved to Warren because my house in Detroit was underwater. That's back when the properties went crazy. So I did a move, and I got out. So I needed somewhere to live, so I was looking for some place to rent. I rented a house on Bush. I became so impressed with Warren City Services, with what I seen in the government. I mean, I called my neighbor called the ambulance. I had never seen this before. The fire truck and the EMS showed up. I had never seen that before. So I was impressed. So I retired. Had a great annuity, had money saved and things. I could have moved anywhere, but I decided to buy my house in Warren cash. I'm gonna move to Warren because I love what was happening. So I began to want to get involved with the city that I live in and see what was happening. When I began to see what was happening, I seen a bunch of bickering going back and forth, lawsuits. The gentleman from property management, he spoke my heart, because I know that if all this bickering is going back and forth, that the job of representing our citizens is not being done. Just simply paperwork going back and forth from the council to the mayor because you guys don't get along with the mayor. Now that work don't get done. What else didn't get done? That makes me think, what else didn't get done? So I don't know any of you personally, and I have no aught against anybody. Nobody sent me here. I'm here in Warren because I chose Warren as a place to live.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
And by me choosing it as a place to live, I want to be involved in my government, and I'm going to keep my eyes on it.
Sam Russo.
Hello, Council. I've lived in the city of Warren for approximately 53 years. I moved out of the state for a few years. I came back to the city of Warren. I've had 3 houses. I now have a house on Masonic in Hayes area, okay? I was tilling my front lawn. I was assaulted by my neighbor, which Got a video, it's on this flash drive. I would like the city councils to see this if they would allow me to show it. I brought it to Jennifer Pierce. She called it a neighbor squabble and refused to do anything about it. Then, after being in her office 15 or 20 times between between March and June, I called the mayor up. And by the way, I like the mayor. I have a lot of respect for him. If he was running again, I would vote for him. He stood up for me, and he did some talking and hooked me up with the right people. Now he got me in touch with Ethan Vincent. He actually came out and told me it was assault. I have a flash drive that shows the assault. I showed him it on the phone. I went and brought him this flash drive about 3 months ago. I still have not received it back. I got a call yesterday saying it's at the desk at the police station. I went to get it, it's not there, the detective has it. Now, I've been in the office with Ethan Vincent, Jennifer Pierce. Jennifer Pierce called a meeting with Cecil St. Pierre over my property. He told me about 10 times, what can he do to stop it? What can we do? Just have him stay off my property, leave me alone. Well, he told them they were wrong, that continued to happen. Not only have they violated a court order, which I showed to Ethan Vincent, I showed to Mary Michaels. I was also in her office about 10 times. She called it assault, and she said, I can't believe how aggressive you were attacked on your lawn. All three of them refused to do anything to help me. On May, I think it was like May 29th of this year, I threw a firecracker on the lawn.
1 minute.
He prosecuted me for throwing a firecracker. I asked him a question. So you feel a firecracker with nobody around is worse than assault? He goes, that's a different incident. Then file the charges. I want charges brought against him. He refuses to do anything to help me. So does the city of Warren. This is incompetence on the city of Warren, on the 3 attorneys in the city of Warren. Again, here's a flash drive that shows it. I was putting up a privacy fence. My neighbors decided to rearrange his gutters and drain his gutters in my driveway. I had the city make him take it out. I had the police make him fix the fence he tore down after his dog bit my brother. There's so much more I could tell you. They refused to do anything about it. They would empty their driveways and park their cars on the edge of my driveway so I can't get out of my driveway. They continue to harass me. To this day, I'm being called names every morning now out of her window door, and I brought that to his attention. I brought it to the police's attention. She's smart. She's doing it now from in the house, so she's not on video.
3 minutes.
I got video of her calling me, constantly harassing me. I got video of her husband harassing me, and I was putting up a privacy fence from my fence to my front of my house. As I was doing that with my cousin, her brother was home. He came out of the house and assaulted me and threatened me. I brought that to the attention of the city attorneys. They refused to do anything about it. I went to Macomb County. Macomb County, he admitted they put a PPO against him. He still, to this day, refuses to do anything about it.
Please wrap up.
I would like to thank you very much, but I also want to say one other thing. I've had conversations with Mr. Watts here. I want to thank you for calling me back and being so nice on the phone and listening to me. But nobody has told me to come down here. This is my own doing coming down here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Mary Matazinski.
Good evening, Council. I just want to set the record straight on a couple of items that were mentioned by an audience member at the last council meeting regarding the barricaded street, Gerald. Never once in the last decade have gates that were installed on private property at the Life Church and at Westwood Elementary been opened during emergency. Not last winter when the catch basins and the concrete work was done on Imperial that took it down to one passable lane around orange barrels and police tape. The private property gates weren't open not a couple months ago when asphalt trucks on Imperial took Imperial down while they were paving a private street. 2 city council members came out in person to try to help the traffic situation so nobody got killed. Not last month when the fire department shut Imperial down completely for a fire at the Huntington Club Apartments. If anyone thinks gates owned by a church or a school district are ever going to be open, they need to go do more research, Mr. Bozak. I want to thank the people involved in assisting in removing the barricade to provide a safe evacuation route. As the Warren Police Department and the Warren Fire Department have stated in their recommendations, it's for safety reasons. It's merely to have an evacuation route to get people out and in without being stuck for 20 minutes on Imperial to make a left or a right to go east or west. I'm grateful the street is once again open the way the city fathers designed it in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Nard.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say, Mindy, I know that you've taken a hard rap from a lot of people, but I'm impressed with you, and I thank you for your dedication to the city, regardless of the unkind words that you receive a lot of times. It's very hard being an elected official because you have to always make decisions that somebody's not going to like, and I like the way that you continue to do that. That being said, I also appreciate the work that Mayor Fouts has done. When I first moved to the city in 2002, Mr. Fouts, when I called him, I had a situation, he answered my call. He did his job, he did what he had to do, but his time is up. And I hear a lot of people speaking about that. But what we need to do, if we want something different, we're going to have to do something different. We can't still hold on to the past. We're still electing the same kind of people. We need to just get somebody new. And if people want to write Michelle Nard in, that's a smart decision, because I'm going to be somebody new. I haven't made friends with anybody to where I can't do my job and I can't make a good decision. And Mindy, and if I'm the mayor and you're sitting on council, I would love to work with you and have you keep me in check, because that's what we need in this city, is checks and balances. And I know a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to hear that the mayor was good, but the mayor can't be bad by himself. He didn't do all of this by himself. He had some help, and not everybody up here is to blame for it, okay? So we have to just take accountability for what we did do, for what we didn't do, and let's move forward. Now we have 3 new mayoral candidates. Not the only one here tonight is me, and I come every single day. I come every time we have a meeting, because I want to hear what the citizens have to say. If you got people that don't care about what you're saying now, what makes you think they're going to give a rat's patootie what you saying later? They're going to do their own thing. But see, I care about what you're saying. That's why I'm standing here. That's why I'm taking the abuse that I've taken. I'm taking the disrespect that I've been taking, because I want to work for the people. I want to work with a council, whether it's these guys up here or somebody else. I'm just praying that they're not somebody that's holding on to some personal vendetta that they have with somebody way back when in the city, and that they're going to help me or whoever it is move the city forward. But just to let you guys know, write in them 4 letters, NARD, for mayor, if you want something different. Have a good night.
Thank you. Scott Montgomery.
Scott Montgomery, Warren, Michigan, since 1966. I'm here again at the meeting to wonder why the city council is a lame duck council that does nothing, that does not move the city of Warren forward. You guys fight and bicker like children. And you have a young girl come up here and criticize. That just shows you how much these kids are learning from your actions. You're disgraceful. And Mr. Watts, I looked up to see what Mr. Schroeder was being paid. I found nothing. So you just like to talk. You're a grandstanding blowhard that likes to pat yourself on the back anytime something good happens within the city. You want to take credit. But anytime something bad or negative happens, you'll point the finger at the city, the mayor. And Mr. Lafferty, I found out about you too. You like going out and having fun, and you don't even show up at certain meetings. And Mindy Moore, you're worried about the geese. That's the last thing you should be worried about. You should be worried about what's happening here in the city of Warren. Amen. While we're sitting still and stagnant. It's a disgrace. And that's all I got to say. And I'll be glad when I see you all gone.
Maureen Frisbee. Maureen Frisbee.
Hi, my name is Maureen Prisby, and this is my first time I've been to a meeting. I've heard a lot of things about what's going on in the city, and I thought it was time I put my 2 cents in. And I had a lot of questions, but they've been answered. Mayor Fouts has called me back and taken care of situations that I've had in the last, I don't know how many years. Whenever I tell anyone that the mayor has called me back, they are so impressed. They said that will never happen again, and I assume it's never going to happen again in the future. This man has lived this city's his family. You have problems with him, I can understand that, but there's no reason that you have a lawsuit for $20,000? I mean, is this ridiculous? Jail, is this ridiculous? I think we've carried it a bit too far for this, because he voiced his opinion on who he would like voted for because it wasn't you or your friends. It's supposedly illegal to give his opinion. He did it on the company's dime. Well, how much money are the attorneys being paid on my dime for these ridiculous suits? It's nice to see all of your faces. I've seen your pictures. This isn't the first time I've seen you all. I hope you're listening to these people. I'm certainly listening to them. I'm impressed. I don't know what I was expecting, but this is better than I thought it was going to be. I hope that you're listening. I hope you grow up. I hope you have a little bit of maturity. I don't know. I'm sure there's 2 sides to every story. I wish the mayor was here. I don't know if he's allowed to these meetings or not. I don't know that. I wish he was here. I would like to hear his comments. I've read in the paper what he has said, though. Anyway, please listen to these people.
1 minute.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Gina.
First, council, I would like to thank Mr. Scott and the City of Warren's property maintenance. You do a fabulous job, fabulous job. Now, let's get to 13D, Secretary of State investigation of City Council complaint for misuse of city resources. Well, Mr. Lafferty and Mr. Watts and Miss Moore, oh, you're gonna look at me tonight, Miss Moore? Or are you gonna look down at your little paper that you're writing down? Okay, MCFA was just filed against you 3 for the exact same thing you're accusing Mayor Fouts of doing. And you know what's funny about it? Is that you guys think you're above the law. And Mr. Schroeder, I will be personally filing a complaint against this city council for not following the city charter when it came to hiring him. I'm tired of paying his frickin' mortgage. I'm tired of paying his gas bill. You didn't do your job properly, but that's okay. Right? Then you have the audacity to sit here and talk about property maintenance all the time. Now all of a sudden Mindy Moore's all excited about getting 9 and Shaner cleaned up. Where were you 4 years ago? Where were you 4 years ago? Nowhere. Now all of a sudden you're talking about property maintenance. And Gary Watts always in District 5. Take care of your own area. Always chasing shit around that you have no business doing. And then when you call property maintenance, Mr. Scott and our city workers are to blame. Stay in your own lane. And Mr. Lafferty, you're an evil little man. Evil. And there's something about you that you're hiding. But guess what? It's going to come to light, mister. Okay, so Mr. Schroeder, expect the complaint in the mail, because I'm tired of paying your bills. And when the shit show is gone, because that's what you are, but one's missing, it's gonna be a good day in the city of Warren. Absolutely. Good day. How many minutes do I have, Mr. Green? Because I can go on.
Oh, you're done. 3 minutes. C. Bishop. C. Bishop.
Now with that, I'm going home. I gotta go to work in the morning.
There it is. They won't be here when you get back.
Bye-bye.
$5 at the door.
Good morning. I mean, whatever it is, afternoon. I forgot what time of day it was. So, I've been.
Yeah, he did. He helped me.
Your brain injury, she sure did. He gave you money, he took care of you, Vanderlinda, when you had your brain injury.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Tell the truth.
So I lived a lot of places in this country. I was in the military. I traveled a lot. From Louisiana. I came to Michigan, hopeful to have a nice place to live for me and my son as a single father. So I decided to buy a house in the city of Warren in 2008. The city was nice, it was peaceful, the mayor was doing a great job. But the last 4 years have been despicable in my opinion. This city council is the worst council I've ever seen in the state of Michigan in this country. In 2016, sir, are you gonna sign the paper to talk or just be quiet so I can talk? Thank you. Well, you're wasting my time. That's the president of the council's job to say that. Yeah, but he won't. So in 2016, I remember voting for the mayor to have 5 4-year terms. That was a vote that the people voted for, and that's what we wanted. And then recently, you guys went and did some sneaky little thing on the ballot to take that away. But you took away our choice, because who cares who's on the ballot? If a majority of this city votes for a person, that's who we want. And we should have that choice, but you took it away because you knew you could not get not even one vote with Mayor Faust running against you. But see all these dirty games you've been playing and these alleged recordings and stuff. And by the way, everything I say is my opinion, this attorney over here. But I didn't approve of him. We have a city attorney, Mr. Vincent. I believe he's the first African-American ever appointed to that position. But why do you guys fail to recognize him? Let's see who are the real racists in this city. Sir, Mr. Green, you were always on the news. Some arrogant little guy came to my door telling me you were gonna be the next mayor of Warren, and I told him you were not, and I was right. People spoke. We don't want you. Miss Moore was on the news the other day. It was disgusting. 1 minute. You're so rude and nasty. I've dealt with you, and you're a horrible person. I don't care who likes you. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Number 2, I oppose this stuff you're trying to do to the mayor for the 20-year, $20,000 or whatever. Leave the man alone. You already ruined his chances of being the mayor again, which we would have voted for him, obviously, because Demas won, and that's who he endorsed. He got all the votes. Miss Moore did not get the most votes. Hopefully she won't win. This guy here, I didn't vote for him, but I live in that district. Never even heard of him. But I just want that to be known. All this bickering and everything that people are saying is true, and it's disgusting and it's embarrassing. Until the last 4 years, I didn't never see that in the city of Warren. My taxes have always been good. My city services are awesome. The property maintenance always comes when I call them. They're great. I love them. I think it's a great program. I've never seen that anywhere else. And so these are the 3 main things I wanted to say. But I think you should be ashamed for taking my vote away by that misleading ballot proposal. Miss Moore has proven that she's rude. That's fine, but she's rude because she talks over people and she laughs at everybody when they're talking. But you aren't going to be up there anyways either, ma'am.
Dan Bahalis. Dan Bahalis.
Good evening. All right, I'm here to support our mayor, Jim Fouts. I moved in our city in 1971 after my military tour in South Vietnam from 1969 to 1970. This city has prospered over the years and made this city one of the most desired locations for many businesses, industry, and citizens like my family. The leadership of Mr. Fouts has made me proud to live in the Warren area. and you can count on Jim Fouts to get things done. My contacts with the mayor's office has always prompted replies to my emails, calls, unlike previous administrations. Mr. Fouts has been the most effective mayor for our city, our residents, and deserves to be recognized for his many years of dedicated public service, not only as mayor, but his years on city council. Jim Fouts has always kept the citizens' issue as important, and many times he has called me to update on an issue I may have reported for corrective action. Even on the weekends, on his own time. What other mayor does that for the average citizen? Mr. Fouts has been targeted not to be able to run as mayor this year by others who didn't agree with his vision for a better Warren. They knew if he were to run again as mayor, he would be reelected by his supporters. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Gary Bell.
Man, I've been waiting for this meeting to come. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last meeting, and I want to address this council. You, the council, the Gang of Five, have been terrible for the past 4 years. The second council meeting, you all start your shenanigans and screwing our city around. I said to myself, you guys aren't going to be back in there for another 4 years. We can't afford that. We cannot afford it. We've lost out on so much. We fought so much, even with the attorneys. We fought. You all fought with our mayor. We couldn't get anything done. We suffered. But you're asking us for another 4 years. I don't think so. I don't think so. I've been sitting here for 4 years, and I've been fighting you all. I've been doing my job as an activist, as an advocate. Now it's time for the people to do their job at the poll and get rid of you. All of you are vulnerable, very vulnerable. Look at your numbers in the primary election. Horrible. You thought you were going to do good. You even thought you were going to be the mayor. That didn't happen. The total disrespect from you, Mindy Moore. You're supposed to serve us, but you constantly look down at your paper with your nasty smirk. Mr. Lafferty, is something wrong with you? 1 minute you want to be this nice, singing guy, and then you're so mean and nasty. You didn't even want to meet the mayor in his office. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to meet him and work for us.
1 minute.
Mr. Watts, you're chasing fire trucks around town all the time, crying every morning on Facebook about what the mayor didn't do. What about what you didn't do or what you should have done? And you didn't do it. You failed us. You've all failed us. And we need another council. Mr. Scott, for you and your crew, thank you for what you do. Mr. Vincent, our real city attorney, thank you for being our real city attorney. And thank you all, the residents, for just putting up with all this ruckus for the past 4 years. But we're going to get it together. We're going to get it together. Election day is coming up. I see you, Pastor Curtis. You have to go. Each and every last one of you have to go.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Meyer.
Hello, Council. At first, I wasn't going to talk, but then I, heard everyone talking, and I thought I would. Many years ago, before you guys were seated on council, I had a flooded basement. This was before the big flood. I had it up about 3 feet in my basement, and I called the Honorable Mayor Fouts, and he talked to me. He called me back, I should say, and then he talked to me, and he asked me to get the neighbors together, and he would come to the house and have a talk. And I thought that was great, and I said not too many people would do that. The next day, we went to city council meeting. I think Ms. Moore, Mary Camp was on council at the time, and the neighbors asked me to speak for them. We spoke, and then the next day after that, I get a knock on the door, and it's Mrs. Kelly Collegio. And she says, hello, whoa, you are a big guy. And I said, well, what's that mean? And she said, well, the mayor asked me to come speak to you on his behalf. And I said, really? I said, he told me he was gonna come to my house, and now he's sending you. And she said, yes. And I said, is your husband a police officer? And she said, yes. I said, you're a female, and you're come to my house, supposedly I'm the big guy, and you're willing to talk to me, and the mayor's not. And she said, yes. I said, did you bring your husband? She said, no. I said, so you're not in fear of me? She said, no. I said, but that coward is? And she just went like this. She talked to me, and, you know, we had a talk. Now, with the property maintenance, I was watching a meeting several meetings ago, and I seen this house come up across the street from me, and I said, whoa, that house does need some loving. And a couple days later, property maintenance guy pulled up in front of my neighbors across the street, and he come over to me and he says, you know, I really like the way your house looks.
1 minute.
And he says, you do a hell of a job here. And he says, it puts a smile on my face. And then he went across the street and cited the lady who complained, that made the original complaint. Now, this woman's house is beautiful, but yet she got a complaint because of, you know, this other house. And as the guy's talking to me, looking at me, my house is behind me and a house next to me. The weeds in that house is still as tall as they were a couple months ago. They're up to about here. He did not see a damn thing, but yet he comes here and plasters this big binder of complaints. You can't see that, but then you come up there and praise yourself for what you're doing. That's a bunch of bullshit.
3 minutes.
Mr. Lafferty, I think you're doing a hell of a job.
You could wrap up, please, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Laura Arts.
Good evening, City Council and the citizens of Warren. I just wanted to talk about the election we're having in 2 weeks. I would like to remind all the voters of the City of Warren that in 2022, gosh, I'm showing my age, a lot of laws were changed. The Constitution was changed. Part of those changes will be implemented this November election. The bulk of them will come in the February election when we do the primary. One of the big changes for the new Constitution is that any military overseas ballots, if it's postdated by the date of the election, it has 6 calendar days to be returned, which means no official count can be done until 7 calendar days after November 7th. And then the county gets to do its thing. So you should not expect any official results until late in the week of the 14th. The reason for that is 85% of all military overseas ballots were not counted before this change. So we believe that overseas military have a right to vote. Number 2, I want to remind all voters that you have a legal signature. When you're returning your absentee ballot, you must use your legal signature. The city clerk is required by law to check your signature on your ballot to your legal signature, which is the one on your driver's license. The city clerk is only required to, if in fact the city clerk determines the signatures don't match, the city clerk is only required to attempt to contact you. If they do not have a phone number, if they have an old phone number, whatever, that was their attempt.
1 minute.
It is your responsibility to track your ballot. Until it is your responsibility to get your ballot to the city clerk. So please go to Vote 411 or the state of Michigan and make sure your ballot is received. If in fact the signatures do not match, you have 3 days after the election to cure that signature, which means, again, ballots cannot be officially counted till at least 4 days on that count. Please, if you have questions, contact the city clerk or the county clerk and ask those questions. But there are changes, be prepared for changes, and do not expect an official certification of this election until at least 10 days after the election. Everyone needs to breathe deep and follow the rules. Again, go to vote411.org and you can track your absentee ballot to verify that it's received. If it's not received, it's your responsibility to go find out why.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to that point, Ms. Arts? Laura?
Oh.
Sorry. That actually happened to me, because I have a Patrick Jr., and he signed my envelope, and I signed his by accident. We sent him in, and they did send it back to us.
Okay,
So they do check it.
Yes, but the city clerk is only required to attempt.
I just want to let you know that they do look.
So please track your ballots.
Thank you.
Everybody vote.
Michael Howard.
I mean, she said it all, right? Please come out and vote. At the last election, 10% of the city voted, 10% of the city determined who made it through the primary, so I would just encourage more people to come out and vote. There's a lot of people that have come down here and criticized you guys, and some of it is frankly fair. Some of the criticisms that have been brought tonight, and frankly over the last 2 years, is fair indeed. I've been one of those residents that have come down here and criticized you guys. What I fail to see is criticism and praise should go both ways. When I come down here and I criticize, which is Mr. Watts, for example, because of a vote he voted and I didn't like it, well, when he supports the community, I'm also going to come down here and acknowledge the things that he did positive. Unfortunately, that's a just measure. Praise go to who's worthy of it, and criticism goes to who's worthy of it. That also applies to the administration of the mayor. There are things that the mayor has done that are great, and there are things that the mayor has done that has not. And it doesn't matter what team jersey you wear, you have to recognize people's failures and people's wins, and you need to keep that in mind when you go to the ballot. There's a reason why the $20,000 fine is on the agenda, because he blatantly broke the campaign finance laws. I was equally upset with that as if some decisions that you guys made, and I would criticize you if you guys did the same thing. And so I think residents that come down here, I would challenge you to read the charter. Residents that watch these meetings, I would challenge you to read the charter, and don't just come to 1, 2, or 3 city council meetings a year. Go to the majority of them if you can make them. Watch them online, because the more educated we are as residents, the more accurately and more honestly we can hold elected officials accountable. And unless we're staying involved, we can't hold them properly accountable. There are things that you guys have been criticized for because you guys are actually following the charter. There are things that you guys have been criticized for because you voted against what the residents want. And that's fair, but if you're following the charter, people shouldn't criticize you for it, because that's the actual law. So I challenge people to read the budget, read the charter, and understand the process, so that when we come down here and we hold the next city council accountable, we're doing it properly. Whoever the next mayor is, let's do it properly. And I'll end with, as we're getting ready to go vote in 2 weeks, I would encourage residents to check people's voting records, not just the ones that are running for city council, but also the ones that are running for mayor. Some decisions that were made in this city actually has harmed many residents in this city. Many years ago, people that looked like me were not allowed to live in this city because of just the color of my skin. Some city council members at that time voted to prevent people that looked like me to come into this city because we needed to be bused to better schools. My grandfather was one of those. My mother was one of those that was prevented to be in the city of Warren for a better education. Because many of us talk about how we've been in here for so long and so long. That's the case because that's a privilege. And this city, to move forward, we need to be more educated. So I just challenge everybody to research before you vote. Thank you.
Jill Dominiak.
Hi, I had a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to say, but actually I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But I will comment that I have supported the mayor all these years, and he has been nothing but helpful in anything, or has been nothing but helpful. And I want to say something, because I've listened to what everybody has had to say, and I've had my own thoughts, obviously. But I just want to say one thing. The mayor, every time I've called him, he's called me, he's helped me through stuff, and Jonathan Lafferty and the mayor both got my family through some horrific times, as you all know, well, most of you know, about our dog getting mauled in front of our daughter. So that's really how it should be. The council helps, the mayor helps. We all work together. And so I appreciated Jonathan's help through it. I appreciated the mayor's help. The mayor was on the phone with me the first 5 days or more and helped us through some really bad stuff. And Jonathan, obviously, I think he was on the phone with me for 2 weeks straight, those first 2 weeks. So I appreciate both of them, which is how it should be. You know, we are all supposed to work together. And I'm not like most of these people here. I have not been at city council meetings for years and years. I've lived 1967, I was born here and been here since then, except for 6 years I was gone. But so, you know, I'm faulty of not coming to city council meetings. I was never involved until my dog got killed. And that's a whole nother story I won't get into, but that's a whole issue there too. But I just hope, you know, in the future that there is less bickering and fighting and more teamwork. But like I said, I did get help from both the council and the mayor, so I appreciated both ends.
Thank you. Carol Sidlowski.
Good evening. I'm Carol Sidlowski, and I've been a Warren resident for 23 years. My appearance tonight is because I really don't understand the vindictiveness of this council. Mr. Fouts will no longer be the mayor in a few weeks, much to the chagrin of many Warren residents. He has done a job that many residents are totally in support of. There will be many new faces on this council after the election, a real vote of non-support of the council. I sincerely hope that the new council will pull up their big boy pants or their big girl pants and work together with the new mayor to keep Warren the safe, vibrant city that it currently is. Again, I won't deny that there's been name-calling and lack of cooperation on both sides of the mayor-council issue. But it's time to put it to bed, to stop it. We just don't need it anymore. So I would ask you to drop the lawsuit against the mayor and be supportive of what the residents of this city want. I commend you on the jobs that you have tried to do. A lot of people will just say you guys are a bunch of bumps. You're not. You have made sacrifices to supposedly help the city, but this constant bickering just has gotten in the way. Egos don't need to come into play. You know, sometimes the council and the mayor, it seemed like 3-year-olds, you know, and somebody's mom should have walked over and said, "Stop it, and stop it now." But it didn't happen. So I, as a mother, as a grandmother, say, stop it. Stop it now. Learn to behave, all right? I thank you. I wish you good luck on all your future endeavors. I hope you have learned from the many failures that have occurred in this room and with the citizens of Warren. It's shame that there are so many that feel that they have been let down. I don't think when you initially came into this position that that's what you wanted to do, but unfortunately,
3 minutes.
that's what happened.
Thank you.
Again, I thank you for your service. And and one other thing, I apologize for the nastiness that has occurred here tonight. As a mother, I would tell those people, stop it. You don't need to be nasty. You can express your wishes, your thoughts, without being nasty. Thank you.
Sue Oshkosh.
Thank you, Council. My name's Sue Oshkosh. I've been a part of Warren since about 1987. I've owned multiple businesses in Warren. A few years ago, after seeing the decline on the south end, I made a decision to move down to the south end because I felt I could make a difference. I'm kind of confused on why this is the first time we've heard Mindy or anyone say, hey, we forgot about the south end. When it comes to the warming center, it's not a warming center, it's a warming shelter. Shelter means it's an overnight stay. For some reason, everyone pushes all the homeless down in the south end. Motor City Minton Mission took care of 852 people last year that would have been out on the streets in the cold. We had one person die over at 12 in Van Dyke because they didn't know there was a warming center, a shelter, where people could go and stay. 352 people were actually single men and women. The other 500 people were families that they put into hotels so that these children wouldn't be on the streets. They wouldn't be in cars freezing to death. So I do urge you to approve funds for this. It's so important. Warren has been the city who stood up last year and actually took care of the people. The police from all the surrounding cities were grateful. They had nowhere to put them. And I think it's an important thing that you guys are voting on it, and I appreciate that you stand up for it. I've been on the board of McCrust, which is Macomb County Emergency Rotating Shelter Team, for, I believe it's been 15 years now. So it's important that we take care of these homeless people. There's not enough beds in this county. And I hope you guys vote for the funds that is needed. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Joel Vanderlinden. Yeah, he's for an item.
Joel Valen, longtime Warren resident. I'm going to express my opinion since everybody else felt they should express theirs. I'd like to start with Mr. Watts. Thank you for doing a fine job going out there, finding all this blight, finding the employees not working, finding them sleeping hidden places, finding property maintenance not doing their job at all, because if they were, you wouldn't be up here complaining about it. I want to thank Mr. Lafferty for his time and dedication. Mr. Green, although we never agree on many things together, thank you, you've done a fine job. Ms. Moore, I think you are the ultimate professional. You have my vote. Mr. Papandreou, you remind me of Lori Stone. Lori Stone only votes or comes in to vote once every 3 months, and you're here in attendance once every 3 months, or so it seems. Jeff, Mr. Schroeder, you came in an impossible situation. We have an incompetent city attorney, and you had to correct all his errors and mistakes. You had to do a job that was very rough, fighting the city, fighting the council, and doing what's proper for the citizens of Warren. It's funny, they are so worried about how much you're making, but they don't talk about how much you saved us. Now, there was talks about a gentleman here who was a pastor, Mr. Kish, who I have a long history with, being in property maintenance, and he liked to speak from the Bible. Well, if you go back in the Bible, there was a guy named Demas in there, Nicodemus, and he killed my leader, Yeshua, Jesus Christ himself.
1 minute.
Now, when it comes to Mr. Fouts, I'm sorry, I have nothing good I can say about Mr. Fouts.
He's a good mayor.
Mr. Fouts was probably the worst mayor in the history of Warren. But I want you guys, and I want the citizens to think about something. If a man has murdered his wife, do you want him in jail? If a man robs a bank of thousands of dollars, do you want him in jail? Well, this mayor has stolen $400,000 from the DDA in misappropriations, and then is guilty for a second time for his campaign broadcast on our city stations. He's already been taught the lesson. Should we forgive him again? No. The man's a criminal. Jim Fouts, your ex-mayor,
3 minutes.
belongs in jail.
Thank you, Mr. Van.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Gloria Sanker.
Good evening, City Council. Before I get started, Mr. President, a name stands out when it comes to beautiful people in our city. Her name is Eleanor Bates. She passed away, but her goodness will always be remembered. Thank you, Eleanor, for loving and serving Warren for 96 years. May she rest in peace. Council, I'm here to rally George Demas for mayor. Why? George is ready to serve. He is not the new kid on the block. He's a proven candidate. He's running for this office to do the very best job he can do. He is not using this office as a stepping stone to go on to other offices. This is it. At this time in his life, George wants to give you, the citizens, his best. He will not disappoint you. George has a heart for this city. He went to school here, raised a family here, worked at Chrysler here, all in Warren. He will introduce programs that will always put you, the citizens, first. And his will be a welcoming office, a friendly place to discuss neighborhood concerns and problems. That will get things done quickly. George is a businessman, and that's why what took a long time to get things acted on before will now quickly get resolved. That's what good managers do. He has excellent training in public solving, and that will be one of his best traits that he brings to the office of mayor. George isn't going to play politics. He's a realist and works with facts. That means facing the problems for the best possible solutions. George will make our city a better place to live. He loves Warren and cares for us who live here.
1 minute.
Give George your vote. There will be no surprises or disappointments. No, he will, as our mayor, make us proud. Two of our audience critics, Mr. Vanderlyn and Mr. Bell, say Lori Stone is in woke ideology. That's the last thing we need to disrupt our city. She is not the change you are looking for. It comes down to this. Do you want someone sensible or radical? Let's not hold back the growth of Warren by electing people with radical and extremist ideas. I urge you to continue our city's growth and development with George Demas, someone who is sensible and trustworthy. Let's get Warren moving forward. We got things to get done, progress to be made, and George Demas has the potential, the talent, and the desire to get it done. Let's hire George Demas for mayor.
Thank
you.
Dolores Prantera.
Good evening, Council. I didn't think I'd make it. I didn't bring my notes because I was at my granddaughter's concert tonight. But I want to come here and I want to thank you. I want to thank especially my councilman, Gary Watts. I know how hard you've worked and the things that you've accomplished, and I appreciate it, and you definitely have my vote. Jonathan, you took on the problems with Sandy Verstraete, with that business down her street. They fought for 16 years. You got it solved. Congratulations, and I'm very proud of you. Pat, I'm only sorry that we can't go on with you, and I appreciate all the things that you did. Mindy, the same way. And Jeff Schroeder, too. Congratulations to you for everything and hard work you've done. You proved them wrong because you won many times over. I'm sorry that Angela's not here, because I remember sitting with her 4 years ago telling her, if the mayor, you got your name on with the mayor, you're going to pay for it in the end. And look at the dirty, nasty flyers that went against her, Gary, and this council. Anybody on that slate who put their names with all that trash, I consider you political prostitutes who sold your good name and your dignity, and you should be ashamed. And with that, I want to say goodbye to the mayor. You and I have butted heads. You have a legacy. You got a living legacy, and the same one will follow you after you're dead. That you are a racist, you hate 60-year-old women, like smelly women like me. You, and especially I now have a special needs grandchild. And what you said and what you did, you will never outlive, and that will be your lasting legacy. Shame on you. Go buy a fishing pole and get out of town.
Lori Harris.
Hi, Lori Harris. It's too bad everybody left. They said all their nonsense, all their vitriol, and nobody wants to hear anything else. But I want to tell you, the people that are listening, that this mayor started from the very beginning when this council was elected to mistreat them, from the very beginning, from when they couldn't be sworn in at City Hall. It's been disgusting to see the way that this mayor has acted, and I am really in support of him getting some jail time and the $20,000 fine, but I'd also like to recommend that he go work as a parapro at Glenn Peters or Bovenshin schools. Maybe go live at the Detroit Rescue Mission for a month. And I don't know how to help him get over his terror at beautiful women of mature age. So, Mr. Mayor, you have ruined your legacy. You've ruined your legacy. But that's all I want to say that's negative. What I want to say is positive now. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Even Mary and Nicole in the office helping you. Jeff, it was Nicole, right? Yes. Jeff, thank you. Thank you for fighting for the right things to do. Oh, and by the way, if that's the only stack of reports from property in 4 years, that's about 500 pieces of paper stapled together. I mean, that would be like one person a day complaining. We should have 1,200, 1,200. I mean, that's ridiculous. Oh, no, extend the rules. No. So I know that some of you have had losses in your family during the time that you've served on council. You've had family issues and things come up. And I appreciate what you've had to sacrifice to still do your job and care about our city while still living your life and dealing with these issues. So thank you. You've given a voice to Tony Baker. You've given a voice to Stacy and Sandy. I wish that you'd solved my problem, but apparently nobody can solve that problem. But you're giving the voice, you gave voice to people, a diversity and inclusion ordinance, a Veterans Commission that we desperately need. You've done good work for the city, and I hope that it's not undone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is announcements, Mr. President.
Ms. Moore.
First, Mr. Fagan, I assume your brother you were speaking of was Dan Fagan? Yeah, he did a fabulous job, and we really appreciate the heart and soul he really put into senior housing. As everyone knows, we suffered a terrible loss. Eleanor H. Bates passed away on October 14th, 2023. She was at the age of 96. She had a wonderful life. She was born in 1927 in Detroit. She grew up in Michigan on Studebaker, where she lived for 96 years. She graduated from Lincoln High School. Her children also went there, graduated. She was a dedicated, loving wife to her late husband, Ted Bates, who was retired mayor of Warren. She was a devoted mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. She was very active in public service in the Warren community. She worked as an elementary school secretary and was involved in the Parent-Teacher Association at elementary, middle, and high school. She helped promote the Warren Symphony Orchestra, which I'm a member of, and that was my association with Eleanor most closely. The Warren Concert Band and Lincoln High School Association and Foundation for Educational Excellence. She assisted her ex-husband, Ted Bates, and she was often referred to as the First Lady of Warren, and she is, for sure, was the queen of volunteerism. She volunteered up to almost the very last days of her life. I saw her not too long ago at a Warren Symphony meeting, and the symphony had performed at the Macomb Performing Arts Center for several years, and we were bringing it back to Warren this year, and she was so excited about that because she was the biggest cheerleader for Warren that I ever knew. She was very generous, patriotic, devoted. In the last couple weeks, so many people have shared anecdotal stories. I had posted her obituary on social media, and one gentleman commented that when he had nowhere to go as a kid, his life was falling apart, that she took him in and took care of him. And there's all kinds of stories like that about her, and she was just a wonderful woman. She always took just impeccable care of herself. Her hair was always done, she always had makeup, and she always had a smile. And Warren won't be as great without her, and we'll all miss her. Thank you.
Moment of silence. A moment of silence for Eleanor Bates. Thank you.
And I think I had, let me see if I had one more thing. Nope, I think that's it.
Announcements.
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that the Warren Civic Theater will be producing Nemo live on stage. This is the on-stage version of Disney and Pixar's blockbuster hit. It will be presented November 3rd through the 5th, and general admission is $16, $12 for ages 12 and under, and all performances will be here in the Warren Community Center. That's November 3rd through the 5th, and you can find your tickets at warrencivic.org/tickets. Thank you.
Announcements. Mr. Watts.
Mr. President, I don't know where to start.
How about the Crime Commission?
There was, Crime Commission was an excellent dinner the other night. A lot of nice awards. Many thanks to all the people that put their life on the line to do the great things they do for the citizens out there. And working with the Crime Commission for the last 4 years. What a great bunch of people. They like to get out there and work hard. A lot of them are CERT members, so great job by all. So I really enjoyed that the other night. But there was a lot of things said tonight, you know, and we're all adults. We can handle things. I was called a whiner. I was called a complainer. Well, I don't have a problem with that. Call me what you want. I've been called a lot worse. But when you call me a whiner for going out and taking care of resident concerns that they call me about, you're calling every resident in this community a whiner. These people call. I probably fielded, I don't know, I'm thinking over 5,000 calls since I've been in office. I didn't add up my cell phone minutes today before I left. I should have. But I get a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of things that don't get taken care of. For Mr. Scott to come to that microphone and hold up a stack of paper is just unbelievable. He said that we could look it up. We don't have access to any of that. We don't have access to one thing. That's an outright lie. Shame on him, a former police officer, lying. It's disgusting. Same thing that was brought up by the one gentleman that the lady complained and they went and wrote her up. I got a call from that young lady. She was hot. She's not the first one that I've had complaints about. The people have complained about something and they've weaponized against the people that complain. The homeowners that pay the taxes in this community, they weaponize. Hello? Okay. They go after the people that make the complaints, and how sad is that? How sad is it? There was a gentleman at the mic tonight. They weaponized against him. That is very, very sad. How dare them? This administration has done that time and time again in the last 4 years, and the citizens deserve a lot better than that. It's a shame that we have to bring these kind of complaints to the microphone, but I am not going to sit here and listen to people lie. Outright lie. So the other thing that was talked about, we didn't limit the mayor's reelection. It simply went on the ballot, and you know what's amazing is 67% of the people that voted said, we want other choices. We want the terms to be all the same. So it wasn't us, it was the people. The people did it, and he can't accept what the people voted for. I heard today, I'm not going to mention the people involved, but I got a call before I came here, and I know one of the other council people did. A department head weaponized against a citizen, and it was outrageous what was said to that person, and I think he'll be filing some pretty good complaints. So that's sad. When we were elected, we were denied a swearing-in ceremony at City Hall. That has never been done before. And that's very sad. But that's okay. We had our own. We did a good job.
Much nicer.
It was much nicer. So with that, I want to clarify some statements that I recently made about Cecil St. Pierre, Jr., the former city council president and assistant city attorney for the city. In 2019, Mr. St. Pierre was running for re-election and he was removed from the ballot by the Michigan Supreme Court for violation of the city's term limits. The voters amended the charter to limit the number of city council terms to the greater of 3 complete terms or 12 years. Cecil was attempting to run a 7th term and 28 years in office, a flagrant violation of the charter. Of course, the mayor and city clerk did nothing to stop this, and a private citizen had to file a lawsuit and go all the way to the Supreme Court with it. After Mr. St. Pierre was removed from council, he was hired by the mayor, HR director, and city attorney to become a full-time assistant city attorney. He was hired into this position even though he did not meet the qualifications of the position, and he was hired over an internal female candidate that had more relevant experience. A federal arbitrator determined that this hiring was illegal and ordered Cecil St. Pierre removed. Mr. St. Pierre is president of the Dark Money PAC, Citizens Alliance, that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars littering our community with lies and distortions about the city council. Mr. St. Pierre is bitter that he was removed from the city council ballot by his Supreme Court, and bitter that an independent arbitrator saw that he colluded with the mayor and HR director Demas to get hired in a city position that he was not qualified for. In fact, the federal arbitrator called his hiring a sham. Getting removed from public positions is nothing new for Mr. St. Pierre. In 2017, Mr. St. Pierre was suspended from his position as a public administrator in the Macomb County Probate Court by the former Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette. Mr. St. Pierre is apparently upset that I posted a social media post that he was booted from probate court. As far as I'm concerned, he was booted from probate court in his capacity as a public administrator by the Attorney General. Oh, let's see. Lost my spot here. Okay, Mr. St. Pierre lost the faith of the Attorney General and was no longer able to handle cases in the probate court, in cases that involved the public trust. Apparently, Mr. St. Pierre is still allowed to practice law in probate court, but can no longer handle cases as a public administrator. Why? Because of legal maneuvers Cecil St. Pierre was pulling in probate court. Channel 7 showed how several families lost large parts of their inheritance due to the actions of St. Pierre and others. A group known as Americans Against Abusive Probate Guardianship has called Mr. St. Pierre and his cohort predators. I said on social media that he was stealing from deceased families. Apparently, this comment upset Mr. St. Pierre. He found a loophole to take advantage of the families of the deceased and possibly take homes and assets from under them. Longtime Macomb County political writer Chad Saluski called this a scam. This is thanks to Mr. St. Pierre's scams being exposed. The law has now been changed and this loophole is gone. I am sorry if the comments about stealing from deceased families is upsetting to Mr. St. Pierre. He obviously got away with it due to a loophole in the law, and I am sure he is proud of himself. But just because it is legal doesn't make it right. When you take something from somebody, I call it stealing. Again, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Mr. St. Pierre is a public figure. He should be able to take the heat because he's dishing it out with shady, dark money PAC. It's ironic that Mr. St. Pierre is so upset about the things that I said about him after he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in secret dark money donations lying about this city council. Just remember, the Supreme Court had to remove him from the ballot for city council because he was violating our term limit laws. The Attorney General had to remove him from a position of public trust because he was engaged in shady practices that harmed innocent families of the deceased, and a federal arbitrator had to remove him from assistant city attorney position because he was hiring, it was a sham, and violated the civil service laws and union contract. Think about that the next time you get another piece of literature in your mail attacking the city council from Cecil's dark money PAC. I suspect they are using City of Warren taxpayer resources to help do the fundraising for this PAC and violating our campaign finance laws. I normally don't write notes or write anything up because I usually shoot from the hip because you tell the truth, it's easy. But this is so bad, what he has done to all of us and to myself, that it had to become public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore.
I would just like to thank Mr. Papandrea and Mr. Kapuzinski for their service on this council during this term. I want to thank President Green. We've known each other for over 20 years, and this is the first time we've been able to serve together, and it's been a true honor and privilege. Being secretary this term was a very difficult job, and it took more than normally does. And I want to thank Pat for always being ready with an answer and help, and he's so knowledgeable about so many different areas. He has been a real asset to me in helping me do my job. And a thank you to our special attorney, Jeff Schroeder. This, you all know what we have gone through from day one. We were denied confirming our own city attorney, and we were denied many things from the very beginning, and we've run into blockades and landmines all along the way, and Mr. Schroeder has been a great help in guiding us and advising us along the way. And I just want to thank everybody here. It's been a great term, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you, everybody.
Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Kabczynski.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it comes to no surprise that I've been in the minority on this council. Go ahead, laugh. No. But anyways, there were a couple of things that were said tonight that I want to address. I normally don't address usually what the comments are made by the audience. I usually have something that I've already decided to talk about for announcements. One of the residents, John Anthony Renaud, brought up a question after praising Mr. Lafferty. The question was, what is wrong with these people? Then another gentleman right after that, I didn't catch your name, sir, I don't know if you're still here, mentioned the word democracy. And then another gentleman, I believe later, the gentleman from Louisiana, single father, said he never had heard of me or didn't know what I did in District 5. Well, I'd like to address that one first. Read the newspaper. Look on YouTube. Find out all the negative crap that the leftist media has put out there about me, simply because I'm a conservative and I stand up for the Trump principles that President Trump tried to put forward in the greatest 4 years that we had in this country. When you go to the ballot, I want you to think about something. Don't think about myself or any other of the candidates, but think about how has life been here in Warren for you for the last 4 years? Have things gotten better or have they gotten worse? How have things been in this country for the last 3 years? With the people in power, have things got better or have they gotten worse? And with the people in power in the state, in the last 2 years, have things got better or things got worse? What is wrong with these people? That's a good question. It was brought up that we're a democracy. How many times have I brought up to the residents here that we're not a democracy? Please, I implore you to read our Constitution. Please read Article 4, Clause 4, in which it says that we are a republic and that we are a Republican form of government. Anybody that believes that we are a democracy is wrong. What we have now in this country is actually an oligarchy. And we have a senile old man that's leading us to failure. So please, I will implore you, think if this country is better off now in the last 2, 3, or 4 years. I don't think it is, but I have tried my damnedest in being in a minority on this council to stop the democracy and restore a republic. Thank you.
Announcements.
I have one more, sorry.
Ms. Moore.
So I wanted to save the most important for the last. I want to thank Deputy Council Secretary Mary Camp and Nicole Jones in the council office. They have had to work so hard these last 4 years, and they've done it with 2 people in what's normally a 4-person office. They have absolutely been there when any of us needed any information, historical or otherwise, and scheduling meetings in quick order when we had to deal with an emergency situation. And I absolutely could not have done my job as secretary without their absolute total loyalty and dedication to this council. And I so appreciate them, and just want you to know that. And to all the audience members that come every week, we appreciate hearing from you. We appreciate your viewpoint. We don't always agree, but we appreciate that you come and share your viewpoint with all of us, and we hope you continue doing that. And that's really all I'm going to say.
And we'll be back here on November 14th.
Any others?
Ron Papandreou.
Mr. Papandreou.
I also would like to thank Mary Kemp, and hope she stays on with the new council. You've done an excellent job. Thank you. And thank you.
Any others? Next item.
Next item is public hearings. The first is 11A, request to review and confirm special assessment roll number 525 relating to 8204 Jackson through the nuisance abatement program.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak on the item? 8204 Jackson. Hearing or seeing none, I close the public hearing, turn the item over to council for action.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Moore. Discussion? Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
11B, request to review and confirm special assessment roll number 525 relating to 26711 Sherwood through the nuisance abatement program.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak regarding this item? Hearing or seeing none, I close the public hearing, turn the item over to council for action.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is 12A, miscellaneous correspondence, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Warren and Hearts for Homes as part of the 2023-2024 CDBG program to assist with emergency living expenses. Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
And next item is 12B, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Warren and Motor City Mitten Mission as part of the 2023-2024 CDBG program to provide emergency shelter for homeless persons. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Okay, I'm trying to find my,
You want Gina to come up?
sure. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I received communication from a resident, and her comment was that this organization provided shelter last year and will be returning again this year. It seems that they did a wonderful job of providing nighttime shelter for around 100 homeless people every night. They provided them with a place to sleep and 2 warm meals along with a bag lunch. The problem was during the day. At approximately 8 a.m. each morning, the guests of the shelter were forced to leave and descend upon the neighborhood. While looking for a warm place to stay, they took over a lot of the businesses in the area, including the Burnett Branch Library. There were so many homeless coming into the library that library patrons had no place to sit or study. They eventually opened up the community room and allowed the homeless to hang out there during the day. And the people tried their best to accommodate. Library staff was placed in the position of forcing a large group of people to follow library rules, such as no eating, drinking, smoking in the library, and noise. I'm just wondering if perhaps some sort of plan could be put in place to find somewhere that these people that once they're let out in the morning, that they have somewhere to go.
That's a really good idea. This is our first time with the Motor City Mitten Mission, our first contract with them, and so, yeah, we will definitely have a discussion with, if there's a concern.
So where is
Trinity Lutheran.
And that's where?
On just Van Dyke and, oh my gosh, Chap Street, thank you.
How far is that from Owen Jack's?
Not that far, half a mile maybe?
There's our answer right there. Open up Owen Jack's during the day.
I will recommend
We have somewhere
that.
for them to go. Solve that one.
Okay, I will tell
How
the
easy
powers
that was?
that be.
Next.
Next. Thank you very much.
Any others? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Helmsley.
Thank you.
Next item.
12C, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of south one-half of Lot 19 and north one-half of Lot 20, Bolam subdivision, AKA 23240 Bolam, Warren, parcel ID 1325454-003, in an amount not to exceed $21,000. An incorrect amount was posted of $19,620, but the true number is $21,000. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is 12D, Water Division Operation Report, third quarter 2023. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty, to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Point of
Next.
order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order.
I apologize. I had a question that I failed to ask on the 11B relating to the Sherwood abatement.
Motion to amend the agenda to reopen.
What was your question?
I had one question relative to there's a second garage or a second structure on that property that was apparently not addressed. When we asked this to be abated, the order came through as one house and a detached garage when there in reality were 3 buildings on the property.
So one is left.
So one is left over. I just had a question, and I see that, I think that's Mr. Cummins back there, may be able to speak to that as to why that structure is still there.
Come on down, Mr. Cummins.
We should have a Price is Right theme.
Let's make a deal.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council.
Mr. Cummins?
Good evening.
I am without knowledge of what this project is going to be revolving around, so I can't tell you whether there's a garage on that property or not.
Okay. Would appreciate a simple follow-up, perhaps, that they did indeed take down the house and the garage, were both in horrible shape, but there is also a third building. It's right there on the corner of Sherwood and Potomac, and you can see that it was missed. If it was missed, it was intended to be part of that original order for abatement.
Maybe ask Mr. Truppa to send over the scope of work from the bid.
We will. And I can take a look at it. We'll take a look at it tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Mr. Papandrea?
I know Mr. Smutak is here for...
Another item.
Is it coming up?
Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you. That would be 13C. Any other? Do you want to change your vote?
I do not, no.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the levity.
Of course. Next item.
12E, discussion in Ray Celeste Sturgis versus City of Warren and Officer Alana Jeanette, claim number CN 02100008101. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Ms. Moore?
It's motion to approve a settlement pursuant to the terms discussed in closed session.
As read. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
No.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Lafferty wants no. Item passed 5-1. Next item.
Next item is 13A, Council President Patrick Green, discussion in re Nooners Automotive Recycling and determine why the building department has or has not responded to Nooners Automotive Recycling within the 20 days required by code. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Patrick, if you want to come up and tell, the attorney representing Nooners contacted me and asked a question and asked if he could have the floor here, and what I offered was come up and make your case, and if we can, we'll send a resolution to the building department asking them to take action. But, so why don't we make your case on the record?
President, council members, Patrick Orella, representing Nooners Automotive Recyclers here in Warren, Michigan. We were back before this council on June 9th, 2023, at which point the recycling license and the junkyard license and the other two licenses owned by Mr. Nooner were revoked. All those licenses were reinstated. As a cursory review, there was a 6-month review granted by this board to determine whether there are any other issues from the city's building department, who was present and stated there was a stacking issue. The stacking issue was resolved. It was inspected by the fire department. There have been multiple attempts to contact the city building department directly by my office on a monthly basis, with the only response being citations issued to my client for matters that this board had already resolved. Those citations have been resolved. So at this point, we're asking that we have not received any response from the building department or the zoning board at this point for any nonconformity. In good faith, we met with Cecil St. Pierre and the city building director, who determined in a consensus that if we applied for a variance to add the action of dismantling to the list of exceptions that they have for operating a recycling company on the property, that would resolve the issue. Mr. Nooner has gone through the expense, time, and aggravation of applying for that variance with no response. That variance was applied for on June 9th, 2023. Absolutely no response from the zoning board, and the only response we've received from the building department are 3 unwarranted citations. I've contacted the city building department directly myself with absolutely no response. I've made sure all the communications have gone to not only the building department and the building director, but also to the city attorney's office and to this council to make sure there's complete transparency on what we're trying to accomplish to satisfy either the zoning restriction that's attempted to be placed against my client for operating his recycling business, and anything he needs to do to satisfy a variance request. To that end, I would ask that this matter just be resolved. He's been operating in the same capacity at the same location for the past 11 years with the existing licenses that he has. He has no intention of being a junkyard. He does not accept junk on the property. He does not display junk on the property. Junk is not a part of anything that he is dealing with. He recycles automobiles. The automobiles that are stacked are not visible to the public. They are stacked in accordance with the fire department. There's no health or safety issue. There's been no other issue brought to us by the building department or the zoning board for the operations that Mr. Nooner is conducting on that property with the existing zoning that's been in place for 11 years. We would simply ask that the board move forward with their original resolution to reinstate that license, which they already have, but to our chagrin, we've not been able to receive a license showing that they actually have that license. And so we're looking for an avenue. We can't file suit. The board has said the license is back. I can't file a declaratory action. The license has just not been given to my client, and he's looking for some help to get that license.
A question. Mr. Schroeder,
when a application to the city is made for a license, is there a specific amount of time that they have to respond, yes or no? Whether they say yea or nay, I thought it was like 20 days, and if they don't, it's de facto you have a license. Taking no action is a...
What is this particular license? I would like to pull it up so I can give a correct answer. I do believe that they have to within a certain amount of time. You can't just sit on an application and not respond to somebody.
It's an automotive recycler license, so it's a...
The city's open for business. There's applications. There's fees to pay. They have a duty to review that and make a decision. You approve it or deny it, and if they deny it and they're wrong, then that's subject to appeal.
Have you applied for a variance?
We did, and that was after a conference with both the Assistant City Attorney Cecil St. Pierre.
Did you have a hearing for the variance?
Once we applied for the variance, we have not received a response from the zoning board or the building department.
Okay.
With the exception of the citations he was issued.
In looking at the chapter and verse of the zoning ordinance, and you referenced before junkyard and automotive recycler, what's the difference between the two?
So under the junkyard ordinance, the operator...
Not the ordinance, but just what's the difference between a junkyard and an automotive recycler?
A junkyard can take junk. They can take refrigerators, they can take garbage.
I can go there and buy parts.
You can, at a junkyard, you can drop off your junk, your garbage, for disposal by the junkyard authority. At an automotive recycler, only deals in automotive components, cars that are dismantled so that those parts don't end up in landfill somewhere, that they're actually purchased on the market. And then once the carcasses are stacked and leveled, those carcasses go for recycling as well.
Can I go there and root around in the back and find a cluster panel from some car?
No, sir.
Like a junkyard is what I'm trying to get at.
No, sir.
So the point I'm getting at, though, is our zoning ordinance has junkyard, and it's putting automotive recycler in the same classification, where people are allowed to go on site and extract from a car certain parts. We need to have a specific zoning ordinance for an automotive recycler if we're going to have them. Because the junkyard is much more restrictive than an automotive recycler in reading those two definitions that that you just talked about, and what's in our code of ordinances, and going back to if Mr. Schroeder can research that and get something back to you that you can send to the clerk's office, because the clerk issues the license, and to the building department.
Certainly, and as a point of clarification, so the automotive recycler ordinance would be more restrictive than a junkyard license because of the activities that are allowed to take place on a junkyard versus the very limited activity that takes place on a
And what I meant
recycler.
was that the junkyard has more exposure.
Correct.
Has more intense operations.
I would agree with that.
That's the point of it. They've applied for a license. It hasn't been given to them. It hasn't been denied. There's a finite amount of time that they're allowed to look at an application before taking action. And if they say no, then usually get that. We've seen the letter for zoning. You've been denied. Go to get a variance. But they've been operating for 10 years, 11 years.
12 years.
12. So don't know what happened.
And so those licenses, just for point of clarification, although we did not have physical copies, those licenses were revoked. And then we applied for an emergency appeal to this council, who reinstated those licenses, and all the licenses were issued back to Mr.
Except for
Nooner,
the one.
except for the junkyard license,
figure it out.
without explanation.
So the resolution I'm asking for is to, one, ask Mr. Schroeder to do a little research, and two, to direct the administration to take action on that application that, as it stands right now, if it's already, the timeframe's already expired, they should have to issue it for you. Any questions from council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kabazinski.
unless you wanted to go first,
go ahead.
Mr. Lafferty. You look like you were itching to go first.
I do have questions. You called it first. Go ahead.
All right. This seems to be a simple terminology phrase difference between junkyard and automotive recycler. Would I be correct on that?
I would agree. The semantics involved a
Okay.
much broader definition for junkyard than it is for recycler.
Okay. So in the order of the filing you did for the license, was a junkyard filed for first license, or was automotive recycler filed first?
They were simultaneously applied for. They were all applied for at the same time.
Okay. If you're not participating in being a junkyard, meaning other than automotive, what would be the need for the junkyard license?
It's required for the operation because under Warren's ordinances, an automotive recycler is a subset of the junkyard ordinance. So you have to apply for the junkyard ordinance to be an automotive recycler. Not
So-
necessarily engaging in the same activities, but in order to be a recycler, that's the only license you have available. And to Mr. Green's proposal, we should probably propose that a new license be available for strictly automotive recycling.
They should be separate.
Correct.
Okay. Now, that's for the city ordinance. Is there anything on the books from the state of Michigan regarding the difference between the two?
Yes, that specification is exactly the same.
Okay.
You guys have adopted it
Would
from the
preemption fall into place here?
I
Ooh, I
don't know that
stumped you.
preemption is the right term for this.
I stumped him. I asked him, would preemption of state law fall into place here?
No, there's no.
Yeah, I don't believe that is the issue.
Okay.
Only
Because if
because
the
it is a
state separates
subset, you
the
have it,
two-
oh, excuse me, as a part of your ordinances, you already have that license available.
Right.
So it's there, it's just as a subset of the junkyard license.
It's not one of the licenses that were taken and put just at the state level.
Okay. My understanding, just because like the state license auto mechanics and auto repair facilities, I would think that they would also license automotive recyclers in the same vein.
No, it wasn't. I understand what you're saying, but it wasn't. The thing is that as opposed to writing a new section of ordinance, of zoning code of who goes where, it was just added to the definition of junkyard. Junkyard includes automotive recycler in our ordinance.
Yes, council member, there is a state license for that, and we have it. It just doesn't apply for the Warren ordinances, because the way you have yours written, that falls under junkyard.
Okay, so as far as the state is concerned, you're in compliance.
That's correct.
But as far as Warren is concerned, you're not.
Correct.
Okay. This sounds familiar with my case, but anyways. So let me ask you this. You don't do any kind of refrigerator stoves, just simply automotive, and that's all you've ever done, and there's never been a need to do anything else ever, other than automotive recycling?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. I yield.
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Arella, Mr. Nooner. June 13th, you came in front of us, and I find it ironic that since you appeared in front of us, hit literature bearing a photo of me and a quote saying that I led the charge to allow a junkyard in my neighborhood because of this item. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, came out. I find it ironic that this administration would cause this issue, claim there's a problem, and then blame the very people that are up here trying to solve it.
They weaponized it.
Yes, as Mr. Watts claimed, they weaponized the department. They weaponized the licensing. You're the victim of politics. That's exactly what's going on here. You know the answer. I know the answer. I think we all do. There's no question here. Very simple. Mr. Arella, can you answer me a couple of what should be very easy questions? What's the current zoning of Mr. Nooner's property?
It is M2.
M2. Are you zoned at all for M4?
No.
I'm sorry?
No, we are not zoned for M4.
Okay.
And neither do we want to be zoned M4.
That's consistent with your answers from the last time. You did not ask for M4, and you did not need M4. The reason I ask that, just to clear the record for anybody who might be listening and have a question about this literature that's coming out, are you licensed to operate a junkyard under M2?
Under the current zoning, M2, are we licensed to operate a junkyard? We do have a junkyard license. We are able to perform certain functions under that license that do not include all of the elements of a junkyard.
Okay.
Strictly pertaining to the recycling of automobiles.
Very good. So there's a fine line between what you do and what some Joe off the street opens a lot and accepts goods of all sorts of kinds, anything at all, cars, appliances, whatnot.
I would go so far as to say there is a thick line between
A very thick line.
and a
Very good.
recycler.
So my last question, do you operate a junkyard 24 hours a day? And is it overrun with rats and rodents?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. This is what Citizens Alliance, the dark money pack that has Cecil St. Pierre as its president and Gus Ganem as our director of public service, running these nasty political hits. And they're using good business owners, honorable people like Mr. Nooner, who has done business in this city faithfully for more than 10 years, who has paid his taxes and has kept up his business, has provided a service to the city. Not only that, he's a city contractor. He has done his duty, and he is being punished for political reasons. And they're taking aim at him to get to me. This is wrong any way you slice it.
What's that word? Sophistry. Had to
So,
get that in tonight, sophistry.
whatever we can do to send this over to the administration and clear up whatever the issue is, I assume it will be cleared up by November 7th. I have a feeling that this will be cleared up by November 7th. There might be something ironic about that date, Mr. Orella. I don't quite remember what that is, but I imagine this issue is going to magically go away on that date. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President,
Mr. Watts.
I got a question about zoning. A junkyard is required, what is the required zoning for a junkyard? M4?
I don't recall.
Do we know that answer?
Well, the real answer is, we don't know, but the one at 11 in Groesbeck that has cars stacked 3I is zoned M2. So,
And I'm
guess-
looking at that right here on the screen right now. And I brought this up the last time.
right.
And somebody stood at that microphone from the building department and flat out lied to me. And I double-checked it when I got home, and I don't appreciate that. I don't know what's going on here, but it stinks. It stinks. This man has been running that business for 12 years over there. I've done business with the company next door, Jim Berg, for quite a few years, and I know how this property was kept. It's odd that all of a sudden, there is a problem when you had all the licenses. Just doesn't make any sense to me. It stinks of politics. And to you, Mr. Nooner, I'm sorry for what the city's doing to you. You've been a longtime business owner in this community. You've been on the toll list forever, and you've done a great job. And for this mayor and his building department to pull this kind of shenanigans is absolutely ridiculous. And then to put out hit literature against Mr. Lafferty that he caused it. Mr. Lafferty wasn't even on council back in the day. How could he cause it? So hopefully these bad people that are causing all these problems for the city be gone after November the 7th. Thank you.
Any others?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kabczynski.
since we are the legislative body, can this be bifurcated to have the ordinance separate for the automotive recycler out of the junkyard ordinance and just be separate?
So you want to make a motion to have the city attorney's office amend the zoning ordinance for a specific
Yes, that would make the most sense.
ordinance for automotive recyclers that would reflect its exposure to the public?
Yeah, that would make the most sense.
Okay, and we want to send this over to the administration. In addition to that, send this over to the administration for, I don't know what the word I'd use, lack of prosecution for not completing the application.
Failure to perform the duty.
Failure to perform the duty as prescribed and issue the license. Any other questions? That's the resolution. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Hopefully we get something out of it.
Council, really quick with regard to the resolution, is there a proposed date that we're coming up against the 2024 application for the license again? So it's just the annual renewals coming up. It's due in March, but the process starts in January.
Mr. President, may I suggest?
Is there a motion to amend
waive.
13A to have immediate effect?
Yes.
Motion to waive.
Agree.
Motion to have make
Reconsideration.
immediate effect.
Yes. Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next item.
Thank you, and thank you for
Thank you, Mr. Nutter.
everything you did for the city. Hope you guys are back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is 13B, Council President Patrick Green, discussion in Ray 11099 Dodge, and ask the administration to fix the house and make the resident whole. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. If you recall, several months ago, we were in contact with a young woman who purchased a house on Dodge Street in Warren, and it was discovered that the house was, the city sold the house for $1 to a nonprofit who renovated it, and the city inspected it and passed, passed all of the city certs to give it a certificate of occupancy so it could be sold. The young woman moved in, and the house is falling apart. When we started doing some research, and Ms. Moore had gone through this in the previous meeting in detail, all of the inspections were fail. Then all of a sudden, one day, they all passed magically within a couple days. And now the house is inspected, and it's falling apart. I paid for a private inspector to go out. I paid for an inspection company, and this person's an inspector in another large city in this area. And he was in shock at how awful this house is. It should never have passed inspection. It has wood supporting the house, scrap pieces of wood jammed under the beam.
Hello?
Who has the button?
There it is. So there's scrap pieces of wood holding the main beam. There's separation between the walls and the siding. There's cracks in the roof. When I went out and met with her, the roof was swayed like a electrical line. It was so bad. There's no way that could pass inspection. And they said it had a new furnace in it. The furnace looked like it was from the 1940s. The windows have air blowing through them and they're closed. The woman can't live in the house. It's what's the word? Uninhabitable. I can't say that word, I don't know why. So she's having to pay for her apartment and her mortgage right now. This is unfair to her. This is a young woman who bought a house on her own and, the American dream, be a homeowner. And what the city did to her was terrible. They signed off on all this. There's no way. I went out and got 2 more inspections from 2 other inspectors who work in other cities around this area. And they too said, this is awful. So, I want to send this over to the administration and have them go fix it.
We asked him to do it before, but after this meeting, as everyone said earlier, I've got nothing else to do. This is my mission now. I'm going to take this, and this is what I'm going to do until it gets fixed. So if we don't get a call in 3 weeks saying that there's active work going on our house to get fixed, we're going to take this to the state, and we're going to go to the licensing boards who approve the licenses of every inspector in this city. And we're going to have everything looked at. Anything Tom Bomarito touched, we're going to have looked at. Everything. We're going to be going to whatever jurisdiction we can, FBI, well, whatever, Attorney General's office. There's nothing else to do but this. This woman got taken, and it's terrible. No one should go through this. And it's a simple fix. So do the right thing. Go and fix the house, or we'll just, this is going to be my mission. We've asked them to fix it. It's their exposure. They're the ones who approved everything. The city's the ones who approved all of the certificates of occupancy and all of the material things in the house, and none of it would pass any inspection. And we have all the reports. We have all the documentation. So I'm asking Mr. Demas to do what's right. He's the HR director. He's the head of the insurance division. Open a claim, get some contractors, get it fixed. Is there a motion? And we have a motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Anyone else want discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Watts?
This just leads right into what I talked about earlier about things not getting done in this community. You know, it goes from one department to another. There's an item tonight on the consent agenda for a house that was supposed to have been torn down 2.5 years ago, and they're just now getting around to it. And it's disgusting that that neighborhood has had to put up with that mess for 2.5 years while the senior building inspector, director, that said give him time to do that, doesn't live in this town. He doesn't have to put up with this. But people that buy their homes and pay taxes in this town have to put up with this garbage. And these guys all think it's funny coming in here. The mayor sends them over here. Obviously, he worked really hard to send people here today.
Told him to do it at the staff meeting today.
Yeah, so it's unbelievable. And I don't know how, you know, we got Mr. Cummings and Mr. Vincent back there. I don't know how you guys go home and sleep at night when you've treated a resident like this. Person that tried to buy a home and you're going to bankrupt them. For crying out loud, how disgusting. All because you gave the house to somebody for $1 as a favor. So let's get this done.
Ms. Moore?
Yep, I think this is the whole impetus, the whole thing behind this mess is pure cronyism. That's what happened. And this is not the first time that the person involved, these kind of things have happened. So it's a shame what this woman has went through, and that's one of the things that's got to end in this city, the nepotism, the cronyism. It's just not right, and people are paying the price. Thank you.
Any additional?
Mr. President?
Mr. Kabczynski?
Okay, so I know I'm going to get the hate mail on this, but that's fine. I'm going to have to take a different position on this here.
That's fine.
And let me explain why, okay? So before you throw your tomatoes and your onions, let me explain. All right, there was a private transaction done between this homeowner and another individual, okay? Yes, the city did this, did that, and the other thing. I'm not disputing that. What I am disputing is when you are a private homeowner, okay, you have to conduct your own inspection. Now, I have a little bit of knowledge on this. When you go through the VA home loan program, you have to get a inspection done on your own. And then the VA home loan has to approve that. If they find any gigs, you're not going to get that property. I am worried about setting a dangerous precedent here in which the city is going to get involved after a private transaction was done between two different parties, even after the city did whatever they did. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, the homeowner, potential homeowner, and the individual that we're selling the house, that was a contract between the two. It was on her own that she should have gotten inspection done. It was not incumbent to rely on the city inspection. She should have gotten a private inspection done, just as President Green had hired an individual to do an inspection. That's what should have been done before the transaction was finalized. Now, the individual that sold the house, yes, she definitely has a lawsuit. Pursue those legal matters. But, in my opinion, to expose the city to liability is to expose the city to every homeowner that was given a bad deal by another person to be ultimately liable for that. And that's going to set a dangerous precedent. Yes, does the homeowner get scammed? Yes, she did. Did the person sell it to her should be absolutely prosecuted for that? Yes. Should they be sued for that? Yes. But does that make the city culpable? The city's culpable for whatever they did, but this is between the homeowner and the person that sold the property, and it should have been her responsibility to get an independent inspection done. That's not the city's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kabasinski.
Mr. President, Mr. Kabasinski, just address what you just said. You may have forgotten, but this house was inspected, and there were many violations, and the assistant city attorney went over to the court and had them dismissed. And they were never repaired. So this was a situation where the city was well aware of the violations, wrote violations on this property, and then went over and had them dismissed. So this was a young woman who, 24 years old? And she just got duped. And this house, and I'd like to know, apparently, there was a furnace put in this house that came from another house.
Flooded out house.
Pardon me?
A flooded house.
A flooded house that the city had. So somehow, somebody found this furnace in one of our houses that had been in a flood and gave that furnace to the people rehabbing that house, and then they sold it as new. So there's a lot of wrong everywhere. Right.
Madam Secretary, I don't disagree with
But there were rules in the contract that the Foster Group wasn't allowed to sell it.
I
They just
don't
flipped it.
disagree with you that this is disheartening.
Yeah. No, I don't wanna argue.
concerned
I'm not-
about
I'm not
opening
meaning to argue.
the city to every homeowner that gets involved in a sale after it was a private sale, after whatever the city's done, that we're going to expose the city to a huge liability. I think she should go ahead and absolutely go after the individual that, that sold her the house or did the private transaction. But my point of view is I'm trying to safeguard the city. I thought that's what our responsibility was to make sure that we're protecting the city against a lawsuit. And if we go ahead and do this, we're setting a dangerous precedent where everybody's going to come into line and sue the city because of a bad transaction that was done after the city sold a property. It's incumbent on that person to do their own due diligence and get their own inspection done. That's all I'm saying. And if that inspection was done, these faults would have been found out contrary to what the city did, contrary to the work of the inspection that the city did, and then that inspector could have said, walk away from this. Don't even do this. Walk away from this. I don't care what the city said. Don't buy this house.
Mr. President.
Hang on. Mr. Kabasinski, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to close the claim so that there isn't damages for pain and suffering. So I agree with you. We have a dual role in that as far as protecting the coffers of the city. But I think our first charge is that we protect the residents, especially those who aren't able to protect themselves and don't have the financial wherewithal to hire a private inspection company on their first home sale.
Mr. President?
And
Sorry.
relying on that they're purchasing it from a small nonprofit And there's so many misrepresentations that were made in this sale, it's mind-boggling. And if a lawsuit comes from this, there will be a lot of things, especially the part where the homeowner went to the city and asked for a copy of the inspection reports and was told, why do you want those? Well, it's her right to have the inspection reports on her city, and they're trying to withhold them from her. That's scary. That begs a lot of questions. So we're trying to close the loop on this. I understand exactly where you're coming from. I'm not arguing with you, but I'm saying this is trying to close the loop on that.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
So, if we inspected the property and found violations, issued violations, and we issued eventually a certificate of occupancy, and the city attorney went in and had those charges, those violations taken away, that's fraud. So the certificate of occupancy by the city was fraudulent,
This is so bad.
right? So that's the problem. The fraud, the crime, I don't know if it's crime, but yeah. Fraud started at the city. So that's,
But right now, this woman's living in an apartment, can't live at the house.
right, there's a deed restriction too, it couldn't be sold.
There's just so many things in this.
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts?
I just forgot one thing I wanted to say, is in doing my job in the last 4 years, I've looked at a lot of building department records online when I've investigated stuff, and I can tell you, there is not one place that's been inspected all in one day by every inspector. And
That one was.
yes, and I have a friend that was trying to sell a house in this city, and it took months to get contractors to try to fix the things, and then he couldn't get inspections. He finally just gave up and just let the house go as is.
Like I said, I got.
It's ridiculous what's going on in this community. Contractors don't even want to work here, but this here was clear fraud, and you have to call it what it is.
All right, I'm going to call the question.
Okay.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 5-1. Next item.
13C, Council President Patrick Green, discussion in Re 23764 MacArthur demolition, so moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. This is an item that we abated several months ago. And a couple weeks ago, Attorney Richard Smutek called me and said that a client of his had just purchased the property, and could we stop the abatement of the property? I don't know whether we can stop the abatement. We can send a resolution over to the city attorney or the building department asking them to give the petition, have you or the new owner show them, here's our plan, we'll have it done in 3 months. And if they'll accept that, I mean, in the long run, we want to make sure that we have properties in this, we don't like tearing down buildings, but sometimes we have to. But if we have someone who has a wherewithal, and if you know that we've tried with some people, sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't. But I trust Mr. Smutek that if he says that they're going to do it, I believe it. So, Mr. Smutek, why don't you make your case, and our resolution will be to send it over and ask them to meet with you, and if they're acceptable, that will, that our resolution tonight will
Thank you, Mr. President.
belay that.
Honorable members of the council, would just indicate that the deed was not issued until September 26, 2023. Mr. Salmon purchased the property via a tax forfeiture auction through the county. He was unaware that the demolition order had been made. He is in the process at this point of doing substantial work on the house. He's expended over $12,000 in labor and materials, and if you were to look at the home, or the building department were to look at it, they would see that he is making great progress in renovating this house. There's some discussion as to the length of time it would be necessary to bring the house into compliance with the building codes. 3-4 months would be plenty. My client has the available contractors. They're ready, willing, and are in the process of renovating this house. This would be a win-win situation for the city. As you've mentioned, Council President, I'm sure the city doesn't like to tear down structures unnecessarily. This would require asbestos abatement, it would require demolition cost, and this would be totally unnecessary if my client were given the opportunity to complete the renovation of this house in compliance with the Warren City codes.
Questions from council? All, what we're asking here is to, he's convinced that they can do it, then our resolution would be to hold off on the abatement until such time as they can prove to the building department they're going to renovate this in a timely manner.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts.
the building director's here. Can we ask him? Is he okay with this?
Or do you want him to talk to Mr. Lezay? Evening, Mr. Cummins.
Good evening, Mr. Council President. This individual did in fact come to the building department, and I spoke with him regarding this issue. He came to obtain a building permit. Pulled up the file, and I informed that I could not issue a building permit to a property that has already been through nuisance abatement that this council had already put in. You guys declared it as a nuisance. So at that point, he said, well, I bought the property from the county. He showed me that. I said, then I would call the county. He did call the county. Apparently, the county informed him that he needed to have done his due diligence. I talked to him after that conversation and said, well, you got one choice. You can go to the city council and plead your case to them, and perhaps they can take it out of nuisance abatement. And at that point, we would be happy to give you a permit and let you, in fact, go at your house.
All right, we'll do that.
And so you are now at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Cummins.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I wish that you would have brought me down for the last two items, because there's some serious clarifications that you need on those.
All right.
Mr. President?
Mr. Watts, you completed?
I don't know, I might want to hear about the other ones now. We might have to reopen those.
Mr. Watts, then Mr. Kaczynski.
I'm good.
Mr. Kaczynski.
You all good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I have a question, because I read in, well, actually two questions. Number one, do we have a remedy for when we do declare a nuisance abatement and then it goes to the county and it's sold at the county to make the county aware that this was declared by a nuisance abatement by the city?
Bless you.
It was not made aware to my client by the county.
That's what I'm asking. Why isn't there not a mechanism in place to the county when they do a sale that we've already done this as a nuisance abatement?
It needs to be updated on assessing.
Okay, so second question. In the backup material, it said it was a house and a store.
It's the nature of the property. It's like the old mom and pop store that has a residential behind it.
Right.
And that's what this property exactly is.
Okay, so what is, the intention is just to have it as residential, not to use it as a storefront or anything commercial?
At this point, there's no intention to use it commercially, just as a residential.
Okay, and does there have to be a zoning change at all? Okay.
No, it's zoned residential.
I think this is going to be a future problem, that we're going to have this happen again, where there's going to be a nuisance abatement that's done by this council. It goes to the county, and then the county doesn't make the owner aware that we've already put this in process for demolition. Fortunately, that hasn't yet happened with this property yet.
Say that again, please.
Fortunately, that hasn't happened with this property yet. We haven't started a demolition. It hasn't gone up for bid or anything yet.
Don't know. It hasn't come back to us to approve the expenditure.
The SR, the SAR.
Mr. President.
What is your timeline for doing, you've done significant repairs already, but what is your timeline to get it completely done?
Within 4 months.
Within 4 months?
Definitely.
Okay.
That's a commitment we will stand by.
I think that should be the condition of the approval, that we see progress done
Absolutely.
within 4 months.
Absolutely.
I would make that condition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Papandrea?
I'd be in favor of giving them 4 months to make significant progress. I'd be in favor of that.
Thank you. Ms. Camp, did you have something to add for material?
I was just gonna say, are we asking for a suspension for 6 months and then maybe make a recommendation that whenever that timeframe's up, council reviews to either rescind the original July nuisance abatement or reenact?
I go with the suspension and then reenact if they don't find significant progress in 4 months.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Kaczynski?
I'm sorry. I just looked at this here, so I'm aware of this property.
Yeah.
I used to go here when I was a little kid, go to the corner store, so this is right in my neck of my woods. But I was wondering what was going to happen with this. Because this is also considered a storefront or commercial, does planning have to get involved with this here as far as changing it from being residential commercial to strictly residential? Does this have to go before
I think
planning?
it was commercial before, I don't think that's platted there, is it? So it was before the ordinance.
Yeah, it looks like a storefront in the front and the house is in the back.
It was before the ordinance, so it's just single family, so if there's a house there, it fits.
Okay. So there is no need for it to go through planning or anything like that? Okay, all right, thank you, I yield.
Call the question?
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lafferty.
I have a question because I'm confused by a statement that Mr. Cummins made. And if you could please return to the podium, sir, I have a question for you.
Regarding this item?
It is. Good. But it's regarding what sounds like a policy, and it seems to be. Mr. Cummins, please. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You said that the building department could not issue permits to him.
We cannot issue building permits on homes that have been declared a public nuisance and are to be abated.
Okay. If that is true, I would like to understand how a home at 4481 Marlowe, under the same circumstances, was declared to be abated by this body, and then on the 2nd of August 2023 was issued electrical permits, and utilities were going to be restored, and the house has apparently been sold since then.
Unless that house was taken out of nuisance abatement.
It was not taken out of abatement by us.
I have no knowledge of that.
One moment. Mr. Schroeder, through the chair to Mr. Schroeder, who can undo an action of council?
Well, the council passes a nuisance abatement order. It's an order of the council. There's an ordinance providing for that. A judge might be able to undo it if someone brought a case to the circuit court and, for whatever reason said they didn't get the proper notice or there's a problem with it. That's happened. Other than that, it would have to be a court order. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you. So no action by council, and there have not been any court orders on this property. I did check the record on this. 4481 Marlowe was declared to be abated by this council. Subsequent to that, permits were issued. They have not been finalized, but the house seems to be in some stream of repair. I would like to understand why. I had asked several council meetings ago for updates. None have been received. So with you standing here, I had to take advantage of the opportunity to ask you that question, sir.
I'm not aware of that home, and I'm not aware of what or how it got from an abatement to electrical permits. We're more than happy to look into that, and we'll get an answer through the council to the...
I respectfully ask you to do that, sir. Thank you.
We'll send it up to the mayor's office tomorrow.
Thank you.
For you.
No further questions.
Call the question, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea? Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0 to suspend the abatement for 4 months and go from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that coming back to city council?
It'll come back if the building department wants us to lift the suspension. But if it's done, it doesn't have to come back here.
Okay. I'd like to see a date certain on that if possible.
4 months.
All right, well,
Wait a minute. Shouldn't we know whether they're going to take it out of abatement, like, in the next couple of days?
Well,
few
he'll have to
days?
go and get the, do I have to do it? Okay. Immediate effect.
well, no, I guess what he's getting to is the same thing I am. I want to make sure that there's follow-through on this and that,
That the suspension, okay, is there a motion to make the suspension of the abatement immediate effect?
Yes.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Up in Lansing, they go, immediate effect, all rise. They tap the pencil.
Thank you.
I like
Next
that.
item.
13D, Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion in Ray, Secretary of State investigation of City Council complaint for misuse of city resources. Motion to approve.
Support with discussion.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Mr. Schroeder, I don't know if you want to give background or I just want to read the. Yeah.
Mr. Schroeder.
Certainly, at the direction of the city council, I filed a administrative complaint with the Michigan Secretary of State's office about the use of city resources for political campaigning with respect to the June 2023 Mayor's State of the City Address. State law, the Michigan Campaign Finance Act at Section 57, makes it illegal to use city resources for political campaigning. What that means is that you cannot use advocacy to tell people who to vote for or who not to vote for in the election. So if you say vote for X, I support X, I endorse X, that candidate, and here's why, or do not vote for person Y, and here's the reason, that's advocacy. If you put it in print, you need to put a disclaimer paid for by the committee. You absolutely cannot use city resources for that. It means telling people who to vote for is what is being prohibited, not the criticism. So what happened at the State of the City speech was the mayor gave a 12-minute presentation using city resources. The TV Warren cameras were there. There were city employees there. There were city employees that prepared the presentation that said who to vote for. And then it was subsequently run on TV Warren for 2 weeks, up to 2 times a day. It's like running a campaign commercial on city government TV, kind of like they do in some of those other countries that are not a republic like we are here, or a democracy like they may be in other countries. But, right, so the criticism is fine. The mayor could have got up. I mean, he blasted me. It was entertaining. I'm not filing a complaint. He has the right to blast the council and criticize you. He could have spent 2 hours criticizing you and run it over and over on television. That's not the problem. The free speech isn't the issue. The issue is when you get in the words of telling people who to vote for, who you're endorsing, that's political advocacy. And we have these laws because you can't use city resources for your campaign purposes. That's why everyone who runs for office has to file a campaign finance report showing who's donating to their campaign. That's why this group we hear about, Citizens Alliance, that's setting out all these messages. If you actually read the Citizens Alliance, they're very careful. They don't say who necessarily to vote for. They'll blast somebody, they'll praise somebody, but they're very careful not to use those advocacy words. But in this particular case, the mayor wasn't careful at all. He got right up and said, here's why I'm endorsing, here's why I'm doing it. City resources, taxpayer money paying for it, clearly illegal. They did it in 2016 and they got fined $700 and some dollars. And so it was a repeat offense situation. So I filed the complaint with the Secretary of State. We did not file a lawsuit, by the way. I heard the mayors telling people we filed a lawsuit. We did not. Actually, this is a lot cheaper than filing a lawsuit. because it was a couple pages of complaint with the Secretary of State. They reviewed it. They had their experts review this, and they came back and concluded that there was enough evidence to conclude that the law has been violated. And then now they're going to the next step in the process. And so they have 90 days now to decide, the fine, the penalty. If they can't resolve it, then it will go to an administrative hearing or court process. So that's the background.
And I have a resolution to read. I'll try to do it quickly. Whereas the City Council authorized a complaint to be filed with the Michigan Secretary of State Bureau of Elections against Mayor James R. Fouts for violation of Section 57 of the Michigan Campaign Finance Act by campaigning for candidates using city resources at the 2023 State of the City speech and for running the endorsements repeatedly on the city-owned government channel TV Warren. Whereas on October 16, 2023, the Secretary of State concluded that there was enough evidence to conclude that there is a violation of the Campaign Finance Act. Whereas using city resources for political campaigns is a strict violation of state law, the city charter, and the city ethics. I'll come down a little bit. Whereas in the prior violation, a conciliation agreement was entered into between the City of Warren and the Secretary of State for $761.90, which was paid by a city employee to protect the mayor from liability. I think that was the mayor's political advisor. But whereas the prior investigation and violation resulting in a fine of $761.90 was not enough to deter the administration from using city resources again at the State of the City speech and using TV Warren to campaign for political candidates. Whereas the law violated by the mayor states that a violation is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of up to $20,000. Therefore, be it resolved, the Warren City Council condemns the repeated and illegal use of city resources for political campaigning in violation of state law, the city charter, and code of ethics. Be it further resolved, the Warren City Council requests that the Secretary of State and Attorney General combat this illegal use of public resources with an appropriate fine and other penalties to adequately punish this repeat offense and to create a deterrent effect so that other public officials do not attempt to do this in the future. There's a lot of misinformation that was, discussed tonight and over social media the last couple days of saying we had a lawsuit and that this council was going to vote to fine the mayor or put him in jail or whatever. That's not up to us to do. That's up to the state. So all of that is just nonsense that's out there. This is just simply a resolution requesting that the state do something so that this doesn't happen again. Because obviously the first fine wasn't enough because they kept violating it. But when people have significant enough penalties, then they tend to maybe not do something again. And I think that's what we're looking for anybody in the future. Thank you.
Mr. President. So I'm split on this here, and I'm going to give my rationale on this. I'm concerned about the freedom of expression issues here. I'm concerned about free speech. God knows I've been through it, and our President Trump has been through it. So I'm concerned about the free speech issues that are presented here. I do agree using the communications division, using TV Warren as state-run TV is wrong. That is absolutely wrong, and that should not happen. I agree with that part. But in the same vein, I'm concerned about the stifling of free speech. In my opinion, it gives the public knowledge as to what the mindset of their mayor is in conformity to what he is wanting to do and wishing to do, whether it's wrong or right or indifferent. Conversely, there should be an opportunity for the opposing point of view to be presented on TV, Warren, and I do find a problem that that has not been made readily available. The candidate forum is not sufficient. What I would agree to, and I think it would be amenable, is in the same manner that the mayor was allowed to give his so-called speech or the State of the Union, as the president does, the opposing party gets to give their point of view and a rebuttal as to what the commander-in-chief has presented in the State of the Union address. So I believe there should have been an opportunity in this case here, since President Green is the president of the council, he should have been given an opportunity to rebut whatever the mayor had presented on TV, Warren, as being the mayor pro tem and the president of the council. And then the citizens could evaluate the dissension speech that President Green would have given, or if he decided to go along with what Mayor Fouts had said in his speech. That is protected political speech. And that is how we are supposed to operate in this country. We're supposed to have a difference of point of view and be able to come up with good governance out of that difference in point of view. So do I think that that should be criminalized? No. Protected free speech should not be criminalized. But I do agree that the use of the city facilities for campaigning, unless it is a sanctioned event, is wrong. And there should have been equal time given. So my vote will reflect that I'm concerned about the free speech elements here, but also I do understand that there was an issue with the violation of the election law and the campaign financing. I do believe we have remedies for that in our charter when you violate election law in our charter, as the filing that I did against what Ms. Buffa did in this election. As far as her violations, I didn't run to the state. I went through the process of going through the district court, the circuit court, and now it'll be in the Court of Appeals. That's the proper process. I didn't run to the Attorney General. There's a process, and I'm not sure if that process has been followed, the ascending process. I think we went to the head of the class and went to the Attorney General on this here, and I find that troubling. So that's my point of view on this. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Anybody?
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
So, we heard from a lot of residents tonight that criticize what we do up here, but I find it troubling that everybody thinks it's okay that the mayor can violate the law of the city, which is a charter, over and over and over again. He's had numerous violations of campaign finance situations on city time over the years. So here we are trying to deal with it once again. We're following the proper procedure, and whatever happens, happens. I mean, it doesn't matter, but here's the problem that I see with it. He could affect the outcome of the election by doing this on city time with city resources, and that's a huge problem. He did that in the primary. He told people not to vote because there's going to be another election because he was going to be back on the ballot. What happened? We had the lowest voter turnout ever. That's affecting it. That's playing with an election. And this needs, I mean, it's going to come to an end on November 7th because he's gone. But this is ridiculous. We have to send this to the Attorney General. I mean, they're sending it to the Attorney General because they're the ones that investigated the complaint, and they said it goes to Attorney General next. So it's not us sending it there. We're just supporting it. So thank you.
And Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
Yes, we did not go to the Attorney General. We went to the Secretary of State, who is, right?
There's a form for it.
There's a form to do it. Will you answer? I don't need the answer. You're the attorney, not me.
We completed a form, Act 57 of the Michigan Campaign Finance Act. The Secretary has a form to fill out. You mentioned earlier about preemption, Councilman Kabazinski, and in this particular case, there's preemption. You can look in the charter, and there's certain provisions written in 1956 or 57 about elections, and it says that city employees can't work on campaigns. They can, they just can't do it during work hours, which is the problem here. And so I filled out the form on behalf of the city council. I attached the explanation. The analysts at the Secretary of State reviewed this, and they determined there's a violation. And like I said earlier, there's a difference between blasting away, which he's very good at, and he does it a lot, and that is not illegal. But to start advocating, what's to stop him from going to the city copy machine and printing election flyers and then handing them out? It's the same thing. So it's really the same thing. You're using city resources for a political campaign, and that's just blatantly illegal. Now, with respect to the charter, what's the enforcement mechanism in the city charter? He's not here anymore. Mr. Ethan Vinson, the city attorney, can prosecute charter violations. In fact, 4 years ago, he threatened to prosecute Kelly Collegio, who was a sitting councilwoman, and because she was handing out absentee ballot applications, which was completely legal. He sent her a threatening letter threatening to prosecute her, which is completely unfair to Ms. Collegio, and that shouldn't have happened. And so he has the authority to prosecute. In my opinion, he wouldn't prosecute the mayor under any circumstance. So we had to go to an independent Secretary of State. That's what they're there for. So we have preemption. This is the place you go for campaign finance violations. And in fact, again, my opinion, our campaign finance laws are pretty weak in the state, okay? And unfortunately, there haven't been reforms that were promised by the people who are there. So we're living with the laws we have, and we filed it on the form, and this is the result. And now we're ready for the next step.
Ms. Moore?
I'm done.
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty?
Thank you. To Mr. Kabazinski's point, I'm going to take my position to disagree with you, because this is not a First Amendment issue. This is not protection of free speech. This is, when you are an elected official, there would be no difference in someone filing a complaint against me if I stated, I want everybody to vote for so-and-so and so-and-so right now. You could say that I violated Campaign Finance Act by using TV Warren, the communications department, our airwaves, the taxpayers pay for. That's the violation. That's what we're going after here. Not the fact that he endorsed candidates that oppose us. That's not what we're going after. I will protect Mayor Fouts' free speech all day long, as I would protect yours. This is not a First Amendment issue.
You want to testify in City Utica for me, then?
This is an issue that we as elected officials have to hold each other accountable for. I will always stand by the rules, I will adhere them, and I will expect others to do so. Now, we know, being in Warren, Macomb County, the brass knuckles of politics, unfortunately, that we've become known for, a lot of people get away with a lot more than they should. And you're seeing for the first time a city council who's willing to say no. There was a respectful woman that spoke today at audience, and she said everything that needed to be said. It's time to stop. And I think that time is finally coming. It's an end of an era in Warren. Let's ensure that the political rhetoric, the blasting of political mailings, the maliciousness and the tenor of our political decision-making here in the city simmers down, and not just by much, by a lot. It's time.
Mr. Kabazinski, I'm going to try and boil this down a little bit.
I said simmer.
I'm boiling. It's warm in here. It's not the speech. He can say whatever he wants. Several years ago, there was a employee in City Hall who faxed, back when faxes were the thing. Campaign finance. Campaign finance is something we have to do as politicians and elected officials, and we have to send in on a regular basis. Well, we can't use city So the campaign finance is legal. We can do that. We can fill it out. What I can't do is fill it out on a city computer. What I can't do is use a city fax machine to fax it to the county.
Uh-oh.
That's happened.
Yeah, I faxed my campaign finance request from the library.
Well, no, but that's public service. That's not private. That's public.
You can do
So, and you know, how it got found out, the phone was on top where it came from. So it's not the speech that he made. It's that city resources were used to publish it. It's the publishing of it. That's the issue. You can say those words. We can go out in the street and say whoever we want. We can't say it here because we're using this. So that's my point.
Mr. President, if I can just read from our charter, and this is what I was looking at, okay? And this is exactly the same thing with Ms. Bufo right now. So it's the same thing. When the mayor filed to run for office, okay, and there it specifically says under section 13.15, general powers and duties. So this is what Ms. Bufo is compelled to do as a separate elected official. Section 7, to make complaint and to prosecute any person whom the commission shall have good cause to believe has been guilty of violation of the election laws. So that is what is being said here, that the mayor has violated the election laws by using city property, the city communication airways, to get his message across. And that's what I'm saying is the first level that we should have done is to prosecute under the charter. My concern is why we didn't do this at the municipal level first. And I understand Mr. Vincent would have been the one to prosecute. Okay, Mr. Vincent didn't want to prosecute Ms. Bufo here. So where did it have to go? I had to go to the district court had to remove it, had to go to circuit court. And now this is in the Court of Appeals. There is a process that you have to go through. I'm just saying, I understand what Mr. Schroeder is saying, that the campaign financing laws, and that's in the purview of the state. I understand that. But what I'm saying here is we had the ability to take care of this here locally, and I don't see that that has been done. I don't see that that process was followed through at the lower level before we went to the top level. That's what I'm saying, and I also said I have an issue with the free speech issues. I understand the argument that Mr. Lafferty said. I hope he would understand that I have an opposing argument, and that's my point of view. I respect his point of view. Please respect my point of view.
Mr. President, could you just have Mr. Schroeder explain the difference between campaign finance and election laws? Because they're totally different.
Sure, I agree with Councilman Kawasinski that that's what the charter says, that the commission has that authority here, but it says violation of the election laws. Certainly there are election laws. These are campaign finance laws. The Election Commission doesn't have jurisdiction on campaign finance matters. Campaign finance matters are exclusively under the Michigan Campaign Finance Act, and so it's just a question of jurisdiction. We have a Michigan election law, and we have a separate Michigan Campaign Finance Act. They're two separate statutes, they're two separate laws. Here we have election laws that are part of our charter. The term limits law is an election law, it's part of our charter. They should have been telling the mayor he didn't qualify for re-election. Instead, they did the opposite, and the court sorted it out. You have an issue with election law. You're in the court system. You're trying to sort it out. There is absolutely no jurisdiction for the Election Commission of the city to hear campaign finance complaints. Otherwise, all these issues that come up would be going to the Election Commission. They just don't have jurisdiction. So I respect that opinion, but I just think it's a jurisdictional question that does not apply to campaign finance.
Not to interrupt you, that's exactly what Ms. Bufo and Ms. Michaels are referring to right now in this lawsuit, is she's saying that this is a campaign financing issue and it's not having to do with our charter and the state has precedence. So I disagree with that position that the state has precedence over a municipal election. But like I said, I believe I'm entitled to my opinion I'm one vote on the council, so I'm sure everybody else is
All
going
right,
to
I'm
vote
going to
in
call the
favor of
question.
this.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Mr. Papandrea?
No.
Green votes yes. Item passed 4-2. Next item.
Next item is 13E. Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion in re status update on the Sixth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals order in James R. Fouts versus Macomb County et al. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion?
Yes, if we could ask Mr. Schroeder.
Mr. Schroeder, can you give us an update, please?
Sure. Since the last meeting, this is the lawsuit where the mayor is trying to undo the election, the primary election, and he lost in the federal district court. He filed an appeal to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. The defendants in the case include the County of Macomb clerk, the city council, the city clerk and election commission, and the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals essentially ruled against the mayor's request to have immediate consideration to schedule a new primary. And the reason the court denied his motion for immediate consideration is that he waited so long to file this case. It was a week before the primary election. And the second reason is they concluded he's not likely to succeed on the merits in this particular case. And the court was very critical of his attempts to try to throw out all the votes of the voters in the primary election and schedule a new election. So obviously this is not going to happen. This case is still open. It's still on the docket of the Sixth Circuit. He's made indications he might want to go to the United States Supreme Court with this. It's not a very likely scenario. I mean, he would have a right to petition the United States Supreme Court for review, but by that time a new mayor and council will be sworn in, and it's very unlikely to go from there. But it will continue to cost litigation fees for the city and the county in the meantime, because every time his attorney files a motion, the city, the county, city council all have to respond, and that racks up the legal fees.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Mr. Lafferty?
Just to clarify, through the chair to Mr. Schroeder, you keep mentioning the county. The county had to retain an attorney or corporation counsel for the county is also involved in this? So could you add some color to that, similar to what our function is here?
The county was sued, and the county clerk specifically is the defendant, Anthony Ferlini. The county corporation counsel is representing Mr. Ferlini in this lawsuit.
And the reason I ask that is one of the statements that the mayor made on social media was that we could have just left this alone, but we filed against him, or something to that effect, playing the victim, as he's famous for.
Sophistry.
The city, we have a duty to defend the charter. When the city is sued, we have to retain counsel. So in the same vein, the county was also sued and had to retain counsel. So there's only one person pushing the issue. He may be paying for it on his end, paying his own attorneys. I have not seen any bills, Ms. Moore. There's been no bills coming to us from that matter. But we do have to pay to defend the city against a lawsuit, like any lawsuit. So not only is the city incurring bills for this, but now the county is as well. I wanted to make that very clear because of the untruths that are being touted on social media. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore?
Didn't the mayor also sue the clerk? Yeah, he sued, the mayor sued the city clerk also and the election commission, and so they had to be defended as well.
God, too.
So he has created lots of legal work for lots of people.
All right.
Mr. President?
Thank you.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Mr. President, so I can probably shed a little bit of light on this because I was told the same thing by Ms. Michaels in her answer. She said that the clerk, the county clerk, should have been included in my lawsuit against Ms. Buffa and the election commission, and I was wondering, well, why that was. Because the election commission and the clerk were the ones that certified individuals to be on the ballot. The county just administers the election. They just print the ballots. They take the individuals that Ms. Buffa and the Election Commission have certified to be on the ballot. So Anthony Ferlini, the clerk, did his job as the county clerk. He administered the election. He took exactly what Ms. Buffa and the Election Commission have decided, who are certified candidates, even though they didn't have any candidate challenge hearings, which they should have. They didn't. They were provided evidence, but they didn't hear it. So they didn't do their job. But getting back to why the county clerk is involved, that's a really good question. Why is the county clerk involved? Why do they have to retain counsel?
They had to print the ballots.
Why does that have to occur? Maybe Mr. Schroeder can shed some light on that, please.
Try and stop the printing of the ballots, so.
I don't see any reason why the county clerk would be involved after the fact. You brought a case after the election, is that right? So I don't know. I'd have to review that. I certainly don't want to give personal legal advice, but
So my question is, this is what I was getting at. Because the clerk has to retain counsel because of something that occurred in Warren, are we going to now have to pay those legal bills at the municipal? This is, again, this is what I'm saying. So this is not only one, but you got two cases now where the clerk is going to submit a bill to the city of Warren because of an election law.
Are you advocating for someone other than the city clerk for this next election?
I'm sorry?
Are you advocating for someone other than the city clerk for this next election? I'm poking a stick at you.
No. I'm simply.
I'm just poking a stick.
I'm just simply trying to point out that we're incurring an additional cost because individuals that were empowered to do something per the charter, per our municipality.
We don't have to pay the county's expense.
That's what I was asking. Are we going to incur that expense?
Well, we do is we pay county taxes. It's part of the doing business.
But are they going to send a bill to the city because they had to get involved in
order
this?
from the court.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Watts.
I just want to say, you know, and the media is still sitting out here, Ms. Johnson, she's sitting here, so pay attention. I know Home Daily is probably listening live at home. You couldn't make this crap up. There's no way you can make this up, what this man's done the last 4 years. It's absolutely disgusting what he has cost this city in lawsuits. I requested when I got on council a list of all lawsuits that he had been involved in since he'd been mayor. This is a pattern with him. He has cost the city probably $1 billion in legal fees since he's been mayor. And he likes to play the victim. Well, you know what, Mayor? You're not the victim. You're the culprit. You're the one causing the problems. And it's disgusting that you would make citizens try to believe what's going on. And when we talk to citizens and you tell them the real story, they just shake their head and walk away. They're like, oh my God. So let's get this done. Let's get
I'm
out
going
of
to call the question. It's receive and file. Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
13F, Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion in Ray, update on publication of ordinances on October 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Support. Do you want to give an update?
Ms. Moore?
And I'll explain the ordinances.
Mr. Schroeder, can you update us, please?
So there were 8 ordinances adopted by the city council throughout the last 3 years that were not published by the clerk's office. And these 8 ordinances range from the diversity, equity, inclusion ordinance, the anti-discrimination ordinance, the responsible contractor ordinance, the open government ordinance, the Veterans Commission ordinance, the ordinance requiring EMS revenues to go to the capital improvement fund of the fire department. These were 8 ordinances adopted by the city council. And, you know, the mayor went to court to try to get these ordinances struck down. And Judge Servito said no, that the council can hire its own attorney and draft its own ordinances if the city attorney doesn't want to do that. And so the law requires an ordinance to be published before it becomes law. So the mayor has one bite at the apple to stop an ordinance if he doesn't want it. It's called the veto power. We've seen that happen. Then it comes back to council, and if the council has 5 votes, the council can override the veto, and that ordinance becomes law. This is government 101. I know the mayor used to be a government teacher. I know he was Council President Green's government teacher. It's just absolute basic 101 government. The veto can be overridden by the legislative body, and then it becomes law. That's exactly what our city charter says. But what they did was they tried to create a second bite at the apple, a second veto that doesn't exist, and they said, well, we're just not going to publish these ordinances once the council overrides the veto or passes them, and then we're going to effectively have a second bite at the apple, and we're going to have an ultimate veto to stop the council from passing any laws or ordinances if we don't want them. In fact, he quit vetoing the ordinances at a certain point. Only 2 out of these 8 ordinances were vetoed. The other 6, there was no veto. He didn't dare veto the anti-discrimination ordinance. He didn't dare veto the Veterans Commission ordinance. That looks bad. So what he did was, when it came time to publish the ordinance, the clerk's office was given direction, and she admitted it. The city clerk said it was the city attorney's giving me direction not to do it, and without his sign-off, I'm not going to do it. So here we are. We had a choice. We could go to court. We could spend tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and we would win. I guarantee you we would win this. We would win this just like we did the others. But instead of wasting the money, I got to give Ms. Moore credit. She asked me, is there a cheaper way to do this? And we did the research and said, well, council has a budget for publication. The council office publishes notices all the time. I think industrial development districts and other notices. And I looked up the state law, MCL. I looked up our city charter, and it says that the ordinances have to be published. It doesn't say the clerk has to be the one to publish it. So we got the publication notices in proper form. They were published in the Macomb Daily last week, and as of October 18th, these 8 new ordinances are the law in the city of Warren. So this is not something they can veto. So, you know, this is the fruits of the labor of the council over the last 3 years. Every single council member was involved in various different ordinances, so we wanted to make sure that the work was actually put into law.
Thank you. So I did post a listing of every ordinance that this council passed, now they're all published. But this has been a very, very productive council. We've created some really good ordinances, and most of them were at the behest of residents, employees of the city, first responders, and some labor groups. And I'm very proud of the work we did. I am hoping that in this next term, we have the Diversity, Inclusion, Equity and Inclusion Commission formed and a diversity director hired. One of the other ordinances Mr. Schroeder didn't mention, but you can't use public resources advertising at public expense. You know, politicians can't make TV commercials, you know, promoting themselves or put their name on swag and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and there has to be a disclaimer that it's paid by tax dollars. We have the Veterans Commission, the EMS, we talked about responsible contractor, the open government, and that was brought up by members of the media that had mentioned how difficult it was to find minutes and things online, which, you know, is the same. Right, every other city does, and also it makes it easier for residents. That it seems like everything is hidden on our website except Ms. Arts has an art of, no pun intended, of finding hidden things on finding hidden things on the website, and she does share it on social media, so she's sort of the website watchdog. And we have an anti-discrimination ordinance, the nepotism and fraternization ordinance, and you know, we know that's a problem because the current police commissioner hired his grandson into the police department, and that is against the charter. That is not allowed. The fire commissioner hired his son, and we paid for him to go to school. We paid for a kid to go to school who is the son of the fire commissioner. And that is an absolute violation of our charter. So these are law. We updated some things, and these are good things. And I'm very pleased that we got them published. I was very, very worried about not having them published, and I anguished over many of them because I thought they were important to do. And I want to thank Mr. Schroeder for finding a way, and council and Ms. Camp, they worked really, really hard to get these done. It's not easy to get all this stuff published, so many at one time. So hats off to them and everybody else that worked on this. And I'm proud of the work we've done.
Good job.
Thank you.
There was a motion by Lafferty, support by Moore, receive and file the update. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item is 13G, consideration and adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 9 of the Warren Code of Ordinances relating to accessibility standards. Second reading. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski? Yes. Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is 13H, ZBA reappointments.
So there were 3 reappointments that had some paperwork issues that have been corrected. Roman Nestorovich, Tony Siraki, and Charles Perry. Is there a motion to?
Motion to approve their reappointments.
Motion by Moore,
I'll support it.
support by Watts. Roll call. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski? Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Next item is 14A, request for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations for the 37th District Court in the amount of $23,000 to account for the receipt of a grant from the Michigan Drug Court Grant Program. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 6-0. Next item.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.